First of all, welcome everybody to our November 9th commission meeting, better known as our Veterans Day Commission meeting. And how that's different is we're going to recognize our veterans at a proclamation in a little bit, and we are 2 days away from Veterans Day. So, and before we go to our invocation from Reverend John Roberts, just one in a minute, if we can, those who are veterans in the room, can you please stand up so we can recognize you? Thank you all for standing, and thank you for your service. I certainly hope that all is going well with you in your post-service days. And if I said everybody could stand up, if you had family members or friends that were in the service, we'd probably all stand up, because we all have people that are close to us in many ways that have served our country in such amazing ways. So in any event, we'll get started with our invocation. Reverend John Roberts from Calvary Episcopal Church from Indian Rocks Beach is online, and he will do it virtually. And then Commissioner Gerard will lead us in the pledge. Go ahead, Reverend.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege and a delight to be with you, and I will open up with this invocation. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon those who hold office in this county the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend. Appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move up to the podium here to do our two proclamations. Be right with me. All right. I'd like to ask Michael Swanger and Jill Maxwell to join me up here at the podium. They'll be accepting the Veterans Day Proclamation for our Veterans Services Division. Hi. Good to have you here. Step over here so that people can see you. This thing will be, I don't want them to block you. Yeah, as we know, Veterans Day is November 9th, or excuse me, November 11th. Today's November 9th, 2 days from now. And there'll be veteran ceremonies all over the county. I know of 3 or 4 that are right up and around my area, but certainly if you have the opportunity to take a family member, even a child would be better, to introduce them to the idea of Veterans Day and what it means, that would be awesome. And the more that we can recognize our veterans at a younger age, the better as we go forward. Michael and Jill, I'm going to read the proclamation and then have you all say a couple of words. All right. Michael Swanger is a Marine with 4 years of service, having served in Iraq, Lebanon, and Operation Katrina. He was awarded the Navy Marine Corps Commendation Medal for efforts as company intelligence cell leader that led to the capture of 4 high-value targets and 20 other suspects. He has been assisting veterans and their families in Pinellas County for over 6 years. So, thank you. Jill Maxwell served in the Air Force as an information manager for 8 years. During that time, she was awarded Senior Airman below the zone. And now I had to look that up because I wasn't sure what that meant. But what it turned out to mean was that you get to be advanced earlier than normal due to exceptional performance. That's what I got out of it. So congratulations. This award is afforded to those airmen who show exceptional performance and carry out duties at a level above their current rank. Jill has been a Pinellas County employee since 2014 and has served in the Veterans Services Division since 2015. So, thank you. The Congress of the United States of America has declared that November 11th of each year be set aside as a public holiday to honor Americans' veterans. Throughout our nation's history, our brave men and women of the military have stepped forward to protect our country. The veterans of Pinellas County gave their all through sacrifice and service to our county, their country, and its fundamental and precious rights of freedom and democracy. We are grateful to those who have donned our nation's uniform and to their families, and we will always remember their service and sacrifice for our freedom. Pinellas County Veterans Service Division is dedicated to enhancing the services and connections for our veterans. The Pinellas County Veterans Service officers assisted with over 1,800 veterans this past year and processed 2,000 claims to assist our Pinellas County veterans in obtaining their earned benefits. And with having almost 10% of our population veterans, it couldn't come at a better time. So thank you all for every day's work that you do. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners that November 11th, 2021 be recognized as Veterans Day. And I will give this to you all. Let's get out here.
On behalf of the staff of Sorry, I'll start over. Sorry about that. On behalf of the staff of Pinellas County Veterans Services, I want to just thank Pinellas County residents and the Board of County Commissioners for the awesome opportunity that we get to serve our fellow veterans every single day. I literally work with the finest people, all of them veterans from different branches of every service right now, and we do amazing work for our veterans. And if you would, this Veterans Day, when you're out and about, if you see a fellow veteran, please let them know we're here to help them in any way we can. We're doing some phenomenal work right now, and I really do appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Hello, I would just like to thank all the veterans for everything that they've done in their service. And of course, as a veteran service officer, we're here to help. If there's any questions, they can, give us a call and we're happy to assist. And I thank you for the opportunity being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you both. Thank you. Appreciate it. And we've got other folks that work there in that department as well. Zephyr, the leader of the group. Where's Zephyr? Is Zephyr here? Zephyr, thank you. Thank you for you and your team. They do great work for our citizens, for our veterans. When I serve on the Veterans Engagement Board for the VA, and we have so much. So many people from the community on that board, and they always talk about what Pinellas County does for their veterans in a really complimentary way. So we're going to talk just a little bit and recognize a business today. Right there. Throughout the year, we've had an opportunity to recognize not only some 501c3s that do great work in our community, but also businesses. And today, we get to recognize Suncoast. It says Construction of Pinellas County. I'm not sure if it's maybe Suncoast Development of Pinellas County, but in either case, Charles Cerullo, he's the CEO, and Luis Aguayo, who's a project manager, are here, and I'd like to have them come up. Again, good to see you, my friend. Just you today? Yeah, okay. All right. And Charles, the CEO, is not here, so Luis is here in his stead. On their website, it talks about integrity, commitment, and teamwork. And being in business for now almost 27, 28 years, all of those things have to be present. When I had a chance to speak with Luis beforehand, we at least got to talk, and he's from Peru. I grew up in Peru from like 3 months to about 15 years of age, and not that he was in Lima and I was out in the mountains and in the countryside, but it was just neat to run into somebody here. He's been here in America for 30 years. Anyway, Suncoast Pinellas is an underground utility construction company that specializes in constructing, reconstructing, and repairing water mains and service, including lift stations, storm sewers and structures, freshwater intake systems, and concrete for driveways, sidewalks, and retaining walls. And with many of the businesses in the government in the area having issues with water lines and sewer lines and replacing them, you're going to have business for a few years to come. So the company has 28 full-time employees and subcontracts work, providing additional employment opportunities. Suncoast Construction of Pinellas, is it Suncoast Development, thank you, is a registered small business enterprise contractor in Pinellas County. The company has been awarded contracts to provide sidewalk, drainage, roadway, and intersection improvements totaling over $11 million in the last 5 years. Please join me in thanking Charles Cerullo and Luis Aguayo for doing business in Pinellas County, and please welcome them here today as they share an overview of Suncoast Development of Pinellas County. There you go. Fran? Thank you.
Yeah, we just want to say thank you for Pinellas County. We're both residents of Pinellas County, and we've been working for over 20 years here in this county, and it's been challenging sometimes, but we have managed to succeed, in this tough environment, and we really appreciate the work that Pinellas County gives to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again, my friend. Nice to meet you. All right, we're going to move on to citizens to be heard, and we do have a few today. Most of them are going to be under the Ready for 100, but there are a few up front. I just want to make sure I've got all of them before. Okay. All right. First up, David Ballard Geddes Jr., and then that will be followed by Jamie Robinson.
Hi, good afternoon. David Ballard Geddes Jr. I live on Georgia Avenue in Palm Harbor. When in the course of human events, mankind is more disposed to suffer while evils are still sufferable, the Declaration of Independence in perpetuity counterfeits itself as preamble to Hamilton's second Constitution. The Declaration underpins a conjured government, throwing both political stakeholdings of such into a state of default as based on the 14th Amendment. Furthermore, if the signatures of the Declaration of Independence is what makes this declaration valid, also shall those same signatures invalidate the document as being a null and void document. For example, let's take the signature of Secretary Charles Thompson. What if the signature of Secretary Thompson was deliberately misspelled and Charles Thompson misspelled his signature as a way to disestablish the declaration, as a way to invalidate the underpinned counterfeiting capabilities in and of the Declaration of Independence? Let's take another signature. John Hancock, the biggest and the boldest signature of them all. What if John Hancock and Secretary Charles Thompson both deliberately misspelled their names, failing to sign their signatures correctly as a way to render the entire document incapable by default and dismissible in a court of law? An incorrect or the omission of a correct signature is to discredit the Declaration of Independence, thus derailing this long train of usurpations from its foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jamie Robinson, and then followed by Andrew Strong. Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Jamie Robinson. I'm the Commissioner for the City of Largo, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of the City of Largo and the Mayor. And I am going to speak about the Ready for 100 proposal, but as I have a commission meeting myself in about an hour, I hope you would mind me going a little earlier. Thank you. The City of Largo strongly supports the adoption of the Sierra Club's Ready for 100% renewable energy campaign by Pinellas County in order to ensure a more sustainable future for our shared communities. Largo similarly adopted this campaign in July of 2018 as part of the City Resolution number 2219, specifically adopting an organizational target of powering the city with 100% renewable, zero-emission energy sources no later than 2035, with a target of at least 50% renewable, zero-emission energy sources by 2030. Additionally, through this resolution, the city adopted a commitment to support the transition of our community to 100% renewable, zero-emission energy sources by 2050. Since its adoption, the Ready for 100 commitment has helped the city to achieve numerous goals across a number of key areas. First, the city committed to this goal met to discuss, the cities committed to this goal met to discuss their shared objectives. This group would eventually go on to become the Pinellas Sustainability Directors Network. Numerous other networking and capacity building relationships have been created due to this commitment since that time. This commitment has also helped the city to align numerous other internal projects to ensure maximum return on investment across functional areas. This includes our commitment to a 100% alternative fuel light-duty fleet and planning processes to support all Largo facilities to install renewable energy by 2035. Largo has also created standards for new facilities to ensure alignment with Ready for 100, including a commitment to maximizing renewable energy for all future buildings. Currently, Largo has one major solar installation at the LEED Platinum Certified Community Center. Future planned installations over the next several years include Fire Station 38, Fire Station 39, Fire Station 42, our Parks Administration Building, our Bayhead Action Park, Wastewater Treatment Plant Ops Building, and our Largo City Hall complex, which is nearly a 1 megawatt installation, solar installation. The City of Largo seeks a healthy, sustainable future for its residents, businesses, workers, and visitors with less pollution and more economic and employment opportunities. The Ready for 100 commitment ensures we are working towards this future vision and will improve air and water quality and protect public health, particularly for the most vulnerable across our community. The City of Largo is pleased to support Pinellas County in their adoption of Ready for 100. For any questions regarding its implementation, please contact Largo Sustainability Administrator Laura Thomas at sustainability@largo.com. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. All right. Andrew Strong, and then followed by Melissa Cepeda.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Strong. I live at 1727 Aberdeen Court in Palm Harbor, and I'm a proud citizen of Pinellas County. I'm here today to bring to your attention the huge foreclosure fraud going on in our court system. On August 3rd, I met with our clerk, Ken Burke, to bring to his attention what I have uncovered with just one bank, Wilmington Savings Fund Society, FSB, doing business as Christiana Trust, a 200-year-old bank that has fraudulently foreclosed on more than 500 citizens of this great county of ours over the last 15 years under Mr. Burke's watch, amounting to over $250 million in mortgage fraud, truth be known. Mr. Burke was reluctant to listen and get involved, even though it quite clearly states on the front of his webpage that one of his duties as clerk of the court is to ensure the integrity of court files is protected. I then sent a follow-up email to Mr. Burke and Barry Burton, our county administrator, on August 9th, over 3 months ago, to which I still have not yet received a response. And I have a copy of that email with me to give to everybody on the board. I also brought to their attention that the Osceola County clerk over in Orlando had conducted a forensic examination of its fraudulent foreclosure crisis over there. In that forensic examination, it indicates that the fraudsters are in fact some of the same fraudsters that are committing the same fraud in our court system. That examination has been filed with our court system and can be viewed by anyone. It is a huge eye-opener. I'm asking that our clerk conduct the same forensic examination and make those responsible for stealing our citizens' homes accountable. It is time that our clerk, judges, and attorneys stop turning a blind eye on this blatant fraud that has been going on in our court system for over the last 15 years under Ken Burke's watch, and stop the perpetrators from stealing our citizens' homes and make everyone accountable. In some cases, the loans don't even exist, yet the banks fraudulently steal these houses and then resell these houses for huge profits. Most assignment of mortgages are fraudulently signed by individuals that have never worked for the companies they allegedly represent. Most allonges are fraudulently signed in blank with no date. Many of these documents are robo-signed. I have the proof to prove it, and I have lived it for the last 12 years fighting this corrupt system with my own home. It is time to make these perpetrators accountable. It is time that our clerk spend some of his $43 million budget and put some of that money to good use and conduct a forensic examination to help protect the citizens of this great county of ours and stop these big banks from stealing our homes right from under our noses. It is our duty as elected officials to protect the citizens of this great county we live in. Please instruct our clerk to uphold his duty as an elected official and clerk of the court and help protect the citizens of Pinellas County by conducting a forensic examination of Wilmington Savings Fund Society, FSB, and make these perpetrators accountable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
I have letters, the email letter that I
Get that
gave out.
to this, give it to Kat right next to you right
Yeah,
there,
I'll give
and
that
she'll
to
make
you.
sure we
Thank you.
get it.
Appreciate it. Please give that.
Thank you. Melissa Cepeda, and then Alexandra Julian after Melissa.
Good
Hi.
afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing us to speak on non-agenda items. I know you have a very lengthy agenda today, so I do appreciate that. And I also have to commend Commissioner Eggers for the flawless pronunciation of my last name that never gets pronounced correctly, but your Spanish background made that delivery perfect. I am part owner of a small business in Pinellas County, and I have taken time off work today to urge you to pass a pet retail sales ban and to not grandfather in the existing stores, because grandfathering in the existing stores will have no meaningful impact. I support small businesses, but I support good businesses who make Pinellas a better place to live. Why do these puppy stores, why are they not good business for Pinellas? Pinellas County alone euthanized 2,784 animals last 2019 alone. Florida ranks in the top 5 states in our country with the most euthanasia, yet here we are with 5 stores importing hundreds of puppies every year. Some of you commissioners have served with nonprofit groups for many worthy causes in our community. I also am a volunteer for Pinellas County Animal Services and other rescue groups. Like you, I spend my free time trying to make our community better. But without your help, us volunteers, we cannot get ourselves out of the pet overpopulation mess. We need your help. Please pass a pet retail sales ban. Please put it on the agenda, and please do not include a grandfather clause. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Melissa. Alexandra Julian, and then Rosalie Socorro. Welcome.
Hello, hello. My name is Alexandra Julian. I wrote it better this time on the comment card so you could read it. My family owns All About Puppies, and I am also the president of My Puppy, My Choice campaign. I've assisted municipalities across the state in drafting ordinances that accomplish what pet retail sales bans claim to without the need to ban businesses or promoting the black market sale of pets. I've attended many meetings, and the opposition tends to take the approach of shock and awe. The video was a good example of this, along with the unfound claim that there are 10,000 puppy mills, or that the USDA isn't a reliable enforcement agency, even though it is public knowledge that there have been drastic improvements in recent years. With that being said, scary tactics like the community is going to be overrun with pet stores, these are all things that are just a part of their playbook. The problem with their argument is that it falls short because it fails to acknowledge the future that the future for our pets and what that looks like if we continue down this path. We provided you with a small sample of information as to the adverse effects of pet retail bans in the last meeting. Where is the outcry for these animals? Where is the advocates for the animals that are stuck in the shadows of the less regulated, the less visible, and the more prevalent entities that are providing animals to the public? I don't know if you guys are aware, but only 6% of the dogs provided to U.S. citizens are those obtained from pet stores. The rest are completely unregulated entities. In recent years, the tide has begun turning. States and municipalities are now beginning to draft legislation that regulates all entities providing dogs to consumers. Care standards, transparency, and overall regulation is majorly lacking in the vast majority of pet suppliers, while pet stores and commercial breeders are demonized. If it's inhumane for a pet store or a breeder to do something, it should be inhumane for a rescue, a shelter, or any other entity to do that same thing. We are all about transparency because that is exactly what is necessary to make meaningful change for the animals that everyone seems to care about. With that being said, the proponents of these ordinances do need to make sure that they're providing all the information, not just the ones that align with their agenda. Our family does thank you for putting the moratorium in place so that you guys can take the time needed to get a little bit more educated on the industry and give this topic the attention that it deserves, and we appreciate that very much. Other than that, I just wanted to make a comment on the amount of dogs that are euthanized in the community. Most stores microchip their dogs, so those chips would be registered to the store. Therefore, if animal services or any entity that had those dogs that they were maybe facing euthanasia or adding to those numbers, it would be very, very easy just to call the store and they would be able to take the dog back. So I appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Alexandra.
Thank you.
Okay, Rosalie Socorro, and then Kayla Nielsen.
All right. Hi, my name is Rosalie Socorro, and I work for All About Puppies. And when we have attended these meetings, we often talk about the unintended consequences of blanket bans and how those bans in no way affect the demand for purposely bred dogs in the community. One of the most disturbing unintended consequences of driving the pet industry into the hands of completely unregulated entities is something that we firsthand happen to experience in our community. Back in April, our Largo location was broken into and 12 puppies were stolen. And as recently as this week, the news broke that while we did get one of our 12 puppies back, the people responsible for the break-in and the theft of our puppies were not only responsible for stealing our puppies, but also puppies in several other counties and holding at gunpoint a citizen of Orange County to steal his French Bulldog puppy. The investigation of the Orange County theft led to the discovery of an underground black market operation where men were stealing dogs and either selling them or keeping them with plans to breed them and selling the puppies in the future. Our puppy had to be DNA tested to prove that she was the puppy stolen from us because the criminals that took her from us had a gentleman with no medical experience or background cut her open and remove the microchip that we implanted into her as a permanent identifier. The happiness we felt when we got her back a few months ago was amazing, but at that time she still had visible incisions that were scarring and some type of thick thread that was used to close the incision, and we still don't know what happened to the 11 puppies that were stolen, and we don't even want to imagine what they might have gone through. I'm sorry. I'm sharing this story with you because we saw firsthand, as well as the gentleman in Orange County who was just walking his dog one evening, that there is currently an underground market for animals. And if anybody thinks that shutting down regulated businesses, that you are not going to see more of that underground market grow and meet a demand, your eyes might be open, but you're not seeing the whole picture. To end it on a happy note, our puppy was placed in a wonderful home and was evaluated for any additional injuries and is now up to date on all of her vaccinations that she needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalie. Kayla Nielsen, followed by Todd Pressman. Hi, welcome.
Hi, my name is Kayla Nielsen. I'm here to speak for the pet stores in your county. St. Petersburg, Dunedin, and Safety Harbor have all passed pet retail bans. That is true. What is getting left out of that tidbit of information is that none of these 3 cities had pet stores operating in them at the time the ban was passed. Some of the same faces that are here today speaking in favor of pet store bans are the same ones that push for bans in those cities. So, when you are being told that Pinellas County is not unique, I beg to differ. Unlike those cities within the county that did approve a pet retail ban, Pinellas County does have pet stores within it that would be affected by such a decision. And I applaud you for recognizing that factor and giving this topic the time it deserves to make sure the best decision is made for your citizens, animals, and business owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Todd Pressman, and then Anne Marie Cancio.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Todd Pressman, 100 First Avenue South, number 200 in St. Petersburg, Florida. Thank you for your time today. I came here to speak and I brought letters of support from a couple of trade associations regarding your vendor suspension ordinance power, of which is wielded solely by your purchasing director. It is felt that this is a tremendously strong power without checks and balances or any kind of appeal. It carries with it drastically far-reaching consequences to any and all jurisdictions far beyond Tampa Bay, including Tampa Bay, of course, placing more than 2 black eyes, which are required for disclosure by companies who may be slapped with a suspension. Now, most alarming about your suspension ordinance is that it carries a connotation with it from disagreements all the way to fraud or criminal wrongdoing once it's applied to a vendor. Now, I've distributed letters to you from the Associated Builders and Contractors and the Tampa Bay Builders Association who are in support of this request. Our request before you today is a consensus to your staff for a time-designated return analysis report on your current suspension ordinance with input from stakeholders to provide a fully transparent and allowable respondent communication for checks and balances or an appeal regarding the exercise of the suspension power. Our preference, however, is that it should ultimately be determined by the Board of County Commissioners as final approval before it's exercised. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members.
Thank you, Todd. Anne Marie, and then Bianca Cancio. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for, even though I don't live here, I live in Hillsborough. I appreciate you giving me a moment to share my opinion about this matter. I'm here to speak about this proposed retail ban, sales of dogs and cats and rabbits. See if I can read what I wrote here. So in early 2020, the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, after much research and many public hearings on the issue, voted to adopt a county ordinance that would force the last 3 remaining retail puppy stores in Hillsborough County to change their business model to an adoption-based model, and would forbid the retail sale in Hillsborough of dogs and cats obtained from any breeder. I participated in those public hearings, and I fully supported the county commissioner's decision to ban the retail sales of dogs and cats with no grandfathering clause. I personally believe that one of the factors that pushed the majority of commissioners to vote in favor of closing the grandfather loophole were the USDA inspection reports that were obtained from a breeder, Julie Hewlett, that supplied puppies to one of the Hillsborough puppy retail stores. In March and June of 2019, USDA inspection reports of Julie Hewlett's breeding facility showed a number of alarming violations. To mention just a few, out of 493 dogs in her care, none of the dogs had ever had their teeth cleaned. Boston Terrier was noted with thick yellow-greenish discharge and crust on both eyes. Bulldog squinting with crust on eyelids. Opacity suggested eye injury, was not treated. No bedding in 94 outside shelters, past winter temps below 35 degrees at night. Siberian Husky with 10 piles of feces turned hard and white in enclosure. German Shepherd with caked feces on her upper back and caked feces on the wire floor. Puppy's legs falling through holes in wire cages. I think that the Hillsborough County Commissioners realize that the cruelty inherent in confining all these dogs, albeit in a USDA licensed breeding facility, to a lifetime of small, cramped cages, no affection, no socialization, wire floors that hurt their paws and through which puppies' legs get caught, unsanitary conditions with feces caked on the wire floors and on the dogs themselves, lack of veterinary care, exposure to harsh temperatures. I think the commissioners realize that a little bit of cruelty is still cruelty. I think the commissioners ultimately ask themselves, why should this county ban the retail sales of dogs and cats based on the fact that the conditions under which these dogs and cats are raised is cruel and inhumane, yet at the same time grandfather a few retail outlets to continue to sell these same dogs and cats which are raised in the same cruel and inhumane conditions. Hillsborough ultimately decided that this did not make sense and decided to outright ban the retail sales of dogs and cats obtained from breeders in Hillsborough with no exceptions. I encourage Pinellas County to do the same thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Anne-Marie.
much for your time.
Bianca? And then I think we go to Zoom or phone call. Hi there.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon. My name is Bianca Cancio, and I'm here representing myself regarding the retail pet sales ordinance, and to encourage you to put this ordinance on your agenda and to vote to ban retail sales of dogs, cats, and rabbits from USDA licensed breeders. These licensed breeders have the ability to keep these animals in awful conditions, which are outlined as acceptable and meeting the minimum requirement by USDA regulations. They spend their lives in cages with wire or grid flooring, which are not only painful to their paws, but lead to entrapment and injury due to the dogs' and puppies' paws falling through the openings intended for feces. Cages are overcrowded, and these animals have to live in their own urine and feces, along with wastewater and other filth. These animals are subjected to living in these dirty wired cages, being deprived of any socialization, exercise, and enrichment, often never seeing any sunlight. The majority of these animals are sick and injured and fail to receive proper veterinary care. Their lives consist of living in a dirty cage where they are constantly standing on wires, never seeing the sunlight, suffering from illnesses, living in their own feces and urine, enduring extremely hot and cold temperatures, never having any socialization, and breeding until the day they die. The lives of these animals are spent suffering every day, and once they cannot produce anymore, they are discarded and killed. Thank you for listening today, and I highly encourage you to please put this ordinance on your agenda and to vote to ban retail sales of cats, dogs, and rabbits, because no living being should live a life of suffering. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Kat, hold on one second. I saw this other card here. Greg Pound.
Greg Pound, Pinellas County. I want to speak on the issue of what's going on in Pinellas County. This paper right here is the end of caucus, end of session, and it talks about the honoring the Black and Hispanic caucus that gets together at the end of the session. Now, these people have realized that the white culture has gotten so vile and so evil and so corrupt, and I've been exposing this between here and Tallahassee. Now, I don't know how many years this has been going on because of what you did for abducting my children from me and taking them and putting them with pedophiles, and then over not going into a violent domestic class over a dog bite, which I had nothing to do, but that was one of the requirements, stating that I had to sign that I committed domestic violence. And then I found out that women in the state of Florida, through the court system, was running a scam in Florida, making millions of dollars through the court system by coming in and kidnapping people's children through domestic violence issues. And it was one of those. So this is what we have. We have a court system now, as Andrew explained, with Ken Burke. This county has been the leading county of corruption in the state of Florida, our county leaders. And I've been exposing it for years and years, and it's messed up with money and sexual perversion. These are the two things. And I've got all the documentation, the proof, so forth and so on, but it's actually what they're out to destroy is our families. Once you destroy the family, you destroy the whole thing. And this is what they're doing. This is in Pinellas County. It's called the Human Sociality by Planned Parenthood in Pinellas County. It says what children need to know and when they need to know it. So children at 5 years old, or parents have to teach their children how to masturbate at 5 years old. Required, a class required through your family court. So this is what we're dealing with, folks, and if the American people don't wake up, you watched that black professor this past week who was speaking about the white culture, and if the people of color don't stand up and come against the white corrupt people who are raping this country and trying to destroy it, that's exactly what they're doing. They become so evil because of their wealth. Wealth corrupts people, and that's what's done. It's perverted the white culture, and they're destroying America, totally wiping it out. And if the people of color don't come together against this culture, it's like this guy, Andrew, who stands up and exposes what Ken Burke's doing, what Ken Burke, Bernie McCabe, and all these other criminals running this county, your illegal sheriff, Robert Guattari, Jim Coates' lawyer, like Karen Seal here, she's grandfathered in here. No term limits, nothing. You people are above the law. You're above the Constitution. You took an oath to defend the Constitution. You say the Constitution is a living document, so you can change it. It's not a living document. That's a lie. It's set, and that's the way it is. And so this is what we're dealing with, folks. You people listening to me, you better do something. You can see the white people. They are destroying America. They're destroying our country, and they want to destroy you, your family, and steal your money. This is what you're dealing with.
All right, Kat, I think I'm showing 3 people.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I
Go
have
ahead.
2 on Zoom and 1 by phone. The first individual to speak online is Ms. Lisa Hinton. Ms. Hinton, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application so that we can unmute you on this item. And then once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name for the record, state your address. You will have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hinton. I'm from Safety Harbor. Did you need my full address? Sorry.
If we could just get the city, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So my name is Lisa Hinton. I'm a resident of Safety Harbor. I'm also a shift supervisor at the Coral Landing Starbucks in Palm Harbor. And I'd like to urge you to support the clean energy resolution being presented today. I'm proud to work for a company that holds resiliency and sustainability as a core value. As a resident of Pinellas County, I would be extremely proud and am looking forward to a productive and healthy future in a place that has made a commitment to move to a clean energy economy. Quoting Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson, Starbucks' aspiration is to become resource positive, storing more carbon than we emit, eliminating waste, and providing more clean, fresh water than we use. This aspiration is grounded in Starbucks' mission to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. By embracing a longer-term economic, equitable, and planetary value proposition for our company, we will create greater value for all stakeholders. Personally, a clean energy economy where I live is important to me because I desire healthy air and a better overall environment for my family, my friends, and myself to live, work, and play in. I believe it will increase local job opportunities for current and future generations in the Sunshine State, forward-looking jobs in both energy efficiency and renewables, creating technologically advanced opportunities that take advantage of one of Florida's most abundant resources, sunshine, protecting our tourist economy by keeping our beaches and air clean while creating opportunities in new and upcoming industries to broaden the base of opportunity in our area. Optimism and confidence that future generations will have a safe, reliable energy source, robust economy, and work opportunities that will lead to a safe, healthy, and productive environment to live in are all important, and why I believe it, and why I thank you for taking the time to consider this resolution that's being presented later today. The intersection of individual, corporate, and government responsibility is vital to the achievement of a clean, healthy, and growing economy and environment. It would be a privilege and an honor to live in a place where that intersection is an achievable goal. I urge you to join the movement started by the Pinellas cities of St. Petersburg, Largo, Dunedin, and Safety Harbor, together over 50% of the county's incorporated population, and make a countywide commitment to move Pinellas to 100% clean energy. And I thank you for your consideration and letting me speak.
Thank you, Lisa.
Now instead of later.
Thank you, Lisa.
Mr. Chair, our next speaker is Dara Crystal. If you could raise your hand in the Zoom application to be unmuted on this item. And then once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name, state your address, you will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Dara Crystal. I'm in Clearwater, Florida.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a certified professional dog trainer, and I've come to you today to voice my strong support for the banning of the retail sales of dogs, cats, and rabbits in Pinellas County without a grandfathering allowance. So I'm here today to discuss the ethical treatment of living beings and what is right and what is wrong. Can there really be question as to if it is ethically acceptable to house living beings in small spaces with little, if any, food? Is it okay for their feet to hang through the floor of the enclosure with wires poking into kennels? Is it okay for living beings to live with little, if any, medical? Is it okay they suffer with matting and eye injuries and excessively long bloody toenails? Is it okay adult dogs are kept in these conditions, forced to produce litter after litter without human contact? The USDA frequently cites puppy mill factories. In fact, one or more of the local pet stores receives a portion of their supply from Lorelei Thomas, located in Kansas. Lorelei's operation had over 1,000 dogs at a federal inspection in spring of 2021 and has a history of USDA violations involving neglect and abuse. Employees of these pet stores claim their animals are coming from good breeders. There's no way for these employees to witness the conditions of where their animals are coming from unless they travel to the common breeding operations. Often Missouri, Indiana, Ohio, Iowa, and Kansas tend to be Florida's biggest suppliers. Staff members only know what they're told to know. Recently, a factory breeder in Iowa by the name of Daniel Gingrich was permanently banned from breeding and brokering animals, as more than 500 dogs were found in deplorable conditions in multiple properties. According to the ASPCA, Gingrich's indictment is the latest example of the USDA's failed oversight of these breeders. The ASPCA sued the department in June of 2021 for failing to enforce the AWA, a 1966 law meant to ensure animal safety. As a trainer, I specialize in aggression. A large amount of my resource guarding cases are adolescent dogs that were purchased from these pet stores as puppies. These dogs are not bred for temperament, only in quantity, therefore passing unwanted traits into the genetic gene pool. These aggressive tendencies most likely are not only genetic, but learned due to fighting for limited food. Pinellas is a wonderful county. It has become a hotspot for people to relocate from all over the country. Let's be the change. Yes, we've puppy mills to ship puppies for decades and allowed pet stores to sell them as retail, but does it make it right? Grandfathering would only reward these continuing to support these horrid industry. We can be known as the county that does not support cruelty to animals. When we know better, we do better. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dara.
Mr. Chair, our next speaker is coming in over the phone line. It's Mr. Peter Delakis. Mr. Delakis, if you could press *9 on your telephone to raise your hand. Again, press *9, and then we're going to unmute you. The host is going to direct you to press *6 in order to unmute. And then once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name for the record, state your address, and you will have 3 minutes. And again, *6 to unmute. There you are.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm Peter Delakis from Tarpon Springs. Some of the board members may remember me as a commissioner from Tarpon Springs from 2004 and 2010. And I beg to and thank you for you allowing me to speak remotely. Currently, I'm president of the Concerned Citizens of Tarpon Springs, also known as the Friends of the Anclote River. And I'm calling in to compliment the excellent work of Pinellas County staff in collaborating and sharing information and data with local municipalities regarding emergency management issues. This is a paraphrase from an email our attorney, Jane Graham of Sunshine City Law, sent to you, which enclosed the October 21st emergency management memo. And this is what I'll be referring to. We were recently impressed to see the detail and care taken by the county staff in their October 21st, 2021 letter assessing an emergency plan for the Anclote Harbor project in Tarpon Springs. The letter provided a storm surge analysis and an evaluation of ingress and egress for evacuations on the property. The letter concluded that the property will be impacted by storm surge from not only hurricanes, but tropical storms. This inundation can block access in and out of the development for both residents and first responders. The letter pointed out that the property is located in a coastal high hazard area, which is also an evacuation level A area, which means anytime there's a mandatory evacuation listed, those people have to evacuate, and this is onto a county evacuation route. It was discouraging to see the county's crucial and potentially life-saving work largely ignored by the local decision makers here in Tarpon Springs as it was provided to them at the Tarpon Springs Commission hearing on October 26th through the 28th at the first hearing of the Anclote Harbor project. It'd be helpful for elected officials within Pinellas County municipalities to hear directly from county staff and officials more often on how their local development decisions have countywide consequences for emergency management. In fact, in the case of conflict between county and municipal law, the Pinellas County Charter explicitly provides that the county's decision on implementation of emergency management prevails. Pinellas Charter Section 2.04 provides, and I quote, when directly concerned with the furnishing of the services and regulatory authority described in this section, county ordinance shall prevail over municipal ordinance. I continue. It is also worth noting that this same 74-acre site is listed as number 11 on the county's priority land acquisition. Per the Anclote River Watershed Protection Plan, February 20 of 2021, the proposed development of the site is within the area slated for a study to, and I quote, create a hold-the-line baseline to preserve this existing riparian estuary system and allow for natural system enhancement in the upper reaches of the Pinellas County portion of the Anclote River. This is an extremely piece of land for the county's future and one which deserves closer attention. And so, in closing, I would like to say, this project, if they build it, there's going to be over 1,000 residents in a coastal high hazard area. And the next time we have a hurricane come through here, that area is getting flooded.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
There is no ifs, ands about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, we do have one other call. Are you finished online, right? Okay. And then another person just walked in. David Happy.
You can watch the security cameras because I just ran across your parking lot to get in here. This little fat guy running across your parking lot. So thank you for your time today. I do believe that you are all here for such a time as this. You should know there are 350 people in Pinellas that are praying for you by name from Pinellas Watch. I just got done giving the same address over at the St. Petersburg City Council what I brought to their attention was that yesterday a report came out from U.S. News and World Report on nursing homes. And St. Petersburg has a bunch of awesome nursing homes and a bunch of great care facilities and a couple of not so good ones. So I'd encourage you guys to take a look at, especially those of you that have been particularly strong on looking at mental health and people's wellness and care. I'd encourage you to take a look at the report that came out from U.S. News and World Reports yesterday. If you want a Cliff's Notes version, you can go to a new Pinellas County website called tidings.media, and you can see a Cliff Notes version of what U.S. News and World Reports came out with. But for all of the awesome facilities over there, what I brought to the St. Petersburg City Council's attention is there are a few that are not so awesome. There are several on this criteria. Now, keep in mind the criteria is a national criteria, so it's not biased pro or against any of these individual facilities. There are several over in St. Petersburg that rank a 1 out of 5 in terms of their care of people. Now, this is using metrics such as their care, their rate of complaints, and all kinds of criteria you can take a look at. Take a look at the nursing home report that came out from U.S. News and World Reports, not to pick on St. Petersburg, but there are a few. Egret Cove Center in St. Pete scored a 1 out of 5. The average criteria in most of our St. Pete care facilities average about a 3, so they're doing okay. They're doing well. They're taking care of people. But the Eagle Lake Nursing and Rehab Center in St. Pete scored a 1 out of 5. There's one in particular that I want someone from the county or from the city or both to take a look at. Bay Point Nursing Pavilion in St. Petersburg at 4201 31st Street South scored below average on short-term stays, long-term stays, overall rating below average with a 1.5, but there's a particularly concerning footnote in their file. The only one from what I saw in Pinellas County that says, this home has a history of low quality care and is being closely monitored by Medicare.gov. That's the Bay Point Nursing Pavilion in St. Petersburg. So I'm thankful for your time. Thankful I made it across the parking lot. Thankful I haven't had a heart attack yet. And thankful, hopefully you guys can take a look at this U.S. News and World Report. Take a look at the Pinellas County ratings for nursing homes. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay, I think that's what we have, right? Nobody else? In the do we have any other cards? She may have. Did she sign up for the Ready for 100? Yes. Okay, that's later. Yeah, yeah, we have a bunch of folks that are signed up for Ready for 100 later. Oh, okay. Okay. I think there are a few that had to get in early because they had other commitments. So, okay, we're going on to our consent agenda. Do any of the commissioners have any that they want to pull? Yes, Commissioner Seal.
Yes, I wanted to pull 10 and 16.
Okay, hold on. Any others? I also wanted to pull 16. So, and then, as I usually do, I like to identify those items on the consent that we won't be speaking about, but that are obviously dollar related. So under Human Services, we have ranking of firms agreement with Bay Care Home Care for home care and durable medical equipment. This is for home health care services for clients of the Pinellas County Health Program and Health Care for the Homeless Program. Provides home health care services to uninsured adult clients that cannot afford medical services care and meet certain income level criteria. It is a $2.75 million over 5 years. Contract from October of this year, 2021, through 2026. That's the first one. And then under Public Works, award of a bid to Hubbard Construction Company for fiscal years 22 through 24 for pavement preservation work. The purpose of this project is to resurface approximately 8 5-lane miles of arterial collector and local roadways within the county. It's an $18 million contract over 3 years, and there's about 13% of it is SBE commitment. Under item 14, which is also under our Public Works the ranking of firms in agreement with WSP USA for engineering, planning, and environmental services for Forest Lakes Boulevard Phase 3 widening preliminary engineering for $458,000. We won't bring up 16 since that was pulled. And with that, do I have a motion for approval of the consent? Commissioner Long on the motion and Commissioner Justice on the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And now we'll move on to item 10, which is one that Commissioner Seal wanted to have pulled. Go ahead.
Yes, it's really just kind of information's sake for everybody. There were 3, starting right now, YMCA Ridgecrest and High Point Neighborhood Family Center that received Community Development Block Grant funding. And if we did a MSTU in the unincorporated area, we could be putting monies towards these projects rather than taking it from CDBG. So it was almost $400,000. So I just wanted to put that in the back of your head. So I move approval of agenda item 10.
Okay, Commissioner Seal made the motion for item 10. Second by Commissioner Justice. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries for item number 10 unanimously. Now, item 16, Commissioner Seal.
Yes, I am, I don't serve on BTS, but any longer. I know it is a very daunting board, but to have this Oracle contract in 2020 go from $550,000 to over $3 million is just disturbing to me. It just seems like we have technology just keeps costing more and more, and I'd like to know what the rationale is for this.
Yeah, I shared your concerns on that, and we came in $550,000, immediately had $1 million add-on for the Amendment 1, and now we're asking for $1.4 million add-on. That's within 6 months of the first one. So yeah, I think a good explanation of what these are, and I'm sure there is a good explanation.
So Jeff,
and
yeah.
Jeff Roars
is here, but and he can walk through this. But there are additional pieces that we have a suite of services, and these are expansions of those services. A question I thought was going to come is actually more on the timing, because it's a ratification rather than an approval, and that had to do with the timing of the contract issues and when they ran out of the funds. So I'd ask Jeff to go through those.
Hey, Jeff, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Jeff Roars, Chief Information Officer with Business Technology Services. I'll provide a little bit of history, try to keep it brief. We did engage last year with a company, Born Tech Solutions, to be our partner to assist us with what we deemed the Oracle ERP modernization project. After about a decade of really minimal investment in our Oracle system, we were approaching end of life and end of support from the vendor. And in addition, many of our business users, and this system is used by everyone in the clerk's office from a financial perspective, procurement, as well as human resources and payroll. So this is the core system, and that's what the term ERP comes from, Enterprise Resource Planning. So we engaged in a modernization project, which was to upgrade the system, but then enhance the system to improve many of the inefficiencies. We identified 361 inefficiencies in the system that were creating work for our staff, where they were either having to manually work around an issue or the functionality just wasn't there. So this was a multi-part. The first part, the $550,000, was the technical upgrade with Born Tech Solutions to upgrade the Oracle system. I'm very happy to report that in July of this year, we did upgrade to the latest version of Oracle, and we are fully supported now. But during that process, we partnered with the clerk's office, human resources, the county administrator's office to bring together the first amendment to that contract, which was to bring in some additional resources for organizational change management, which is better communicating the change out to our staff, and then also bringing in functional analysts, because we were overwhelming the business departments with testing and business process mapping and documentation. So we were overwhelming our business units. So the businesses and BTS came together and partnered to bring in some functional analysts to really take that burden off of the business department. So that was the first amendment that you saw back in March. This Amendment 2 that's before you today is really the culmination of the budget process. So as part of the BTS budget process for this current fiscal year, BTS put forward a decision package, and that decision package was ultimately approved. Thank you. And this amendment just adds the dollars to the contract to execute that approved decision package that has already been considered and approved. So that's the action that's before you. And as far as the timing Barry was talking about, there was a really unfortunate timing scenario where we did expend all the funds of the previous contract before this was able to get in front of you for consideration. And we do lean on this partner to help us with many things, but one of them was year-end close. And also, we had an issue with being able to pay reimbursed travel for our folks. And so we wanted to get Born Tech engaged as quickly as possible to help us through those issues. So that was the reason for the approval a little bit before this meeting could happen.
Commissioner Seal, did you have any questions? So that Amendment 1 was for actually bringing in some folks to help out for a period of time.
Correct. That was what we were calling Release 1 in the technical upgrade, bringing in functional analysts to help the business departments where we were just overwhelming them with the schedule. You know, they're trying to do their normal work, but also test a brand new system, document their processes. We were doing business process modernization, so we were actually modernizing their processes. So that was a partnership with them to bring in additional help for the business.
So that million was part of implementing the 550,000.
Yes, it was to assist the business side of implementing that new system.
And that's now done. They're no longer here, that group of people.
Well, we've transitioned to this will be the next phase, which is Release 2, which is that approved decision package that went through the budgeting process. And this, the funds put in here, the 1.4 million that you see here for Amendment 2, is the execution of the next phase, which will continue that good work. And at the end of this phase, we will be 80% done with all of those pain points and getting those operational efficiencies.
If I can help, I think to put this in context, we really didn't do any major upgrades between, 2012?
2011, yeah.
2011 to today. In the IT world, that's obviously a lifetime. And so we really were actually looking at taking Oracle to a web-based solution. But we couldn't until we upgraded ourselves and changed our processes. And so we're implementing, so for instance, we don't have a integrated human resources system that's very much needed. So this is an effort to bring us up to where we should be and improve all those business analysis. This company is the one that's helping us do that. Otherwise, we'd be pulling staff off to try to do a major system upgrade while they're trying to do their current work. And so it was all part of a planned transition, but we actually see that going further in the future. But first, we need to get ourselves up to be current with the modules that are out there. This is also an issue from a security standpoint also, because it puts us up to the latest versions.
Commissioner Long?
Yes, and I, as a member who has served on BTS for several years now, I would like to share that the work of the technology department has been pretty awesome to learn about and to hear about, though we don't meet all that often. It is kind of the end result of the world we live in today that has everything has transitioned to technology. And what makes it so extra expensive is the fact that it keeps changing and evolving. And what is being worked on today, 3 or 4 or 5 years from now will be totally antiquated. And so it's kind of the cost of doing business in a county this large that has as many moving parts as it does. Just look at the way we have changed how we operate on the commission. From the time when I first came, everything was on paper. Remember those huge big stacks of the agenda with all the back materials? Now it's all on iLegislate. And so just learning about that and what it takes to implement it has been quite extraordinary. And all of the constitutional officers as well are involved in the processes that Jeff keeps talking about. And so that makes it even more expensive because we're combining all those different systems under one great big gigantic umbrella. So not to muddy the waters, Jeff, but I cannot help but think about all of the 24 municipalities who are trying to keep up with their end of it as well, and how much potential duplication of effort is going on countywide, that maybe if we were to think in a, I don't know, bigger, bolder, different way, I can't help but think about what the savings might be, maybe, I don't know. So I don't know if you can speak to that, or Barry, if you have your meetings with all these different folks
Yeah,
who do, but.
well, I would speak to that. If you make it too big, it dies under its own weight. You know, the best thing smaller municipalities can do is team up between a few of them, you know, and work to find efficiencies in that. When we get a system integration, it's everything integrated. If you're a small municipality, you don't have to worry about having a system where it coordinates with grants and everything else in one system. Most smaller municipalities can't afford, nor do they need, a complete ERP system like we have. Mm-hmm. And so it's usually not there. What I've seen is a lot of smaller entities coming together and coordinating a regional IT network amongst themselves based upon the scale of their particular operations. And then like a Clearwater, St. Petersburg, having their own systems is,
Anyway, it's pretty interesting. Daunting, but interesting.
Yeah, and I guess I would say that, with technology changes, I get it. And those, working in it are in high demand. I get that too. I think the frustrating part for some of us is that, we don't know that much about what goes on in that black box, so to speak, in terms of what your services are. And what's frustrating is the planning process that occurs, or to the best that you can, right? You anticipated $500,000 last year, and now this project is gone up to $3 million. And that, in terms of the idea of not being able to handle it with our own folks, and we had to bring outside folks in, elevated the cost even higher. So it's frustrating anyway, because we just don't know that much about the world that you work in. But when you see that planning kind of fall apart, I won't say fall apart.
But I think, Commissioner, the key piece is this is additional work. It's not an expansion of a current implementation. We're adding additional implementations, and you're right, because it comes off of one contract, and because you got caught up with your budget, then it looks as though it's increasing. But each one of them is new effort.
But the first one, the first $1 million, though, was for the first project. It was outside people to help bring the first project in. So we didn't know that we needed those outside people when we did the 500 initially. That's the point. And I think, and just having a better handle on that. Though the second one is including that same group of outside help to bring in additional service, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's a total package for Release 2. And as Barry mentioned, this is additional work, but it's also a decision point, and we did make that decision through the budgeting process to invest in the system. And then similarly, next year we may have another opportunity to finish this modernization off, and then we're actually planning to go into a operation mode for several years as we wait for the next decision around transitioning to maybe what's next. So. This is really finishing up that modernization to carry us into a little bit of a stabilization period.
Oh, yay. What's next?
Exactly.
That scares me, but I hear you. I appreciate I appreciate the industry that you're in. It's just sometimes frustrating not to be able to anticipate some of this ahead of time. So any other questions on this item? Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Long, second by Commissioner Flowers. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. I think that was all under the consent agenda. So let's move on to regular agenda. Item 19 under County Administrator Reports. This has to do with the airport airline operating and use agreement with Swoop, Inc.
Exactly, that. This is for commercial air service at in St. Pete International Airport, a 5-year agreement with for approximately $835,000.
Motion by Commissioner Justice, second by Commissioner Flowers. Any questions? Their first flight was last Friday?
Yeah, they come in. It was an inaugural flight. We gave them balloons and cookies and various swag, and they were kind of surprised. And they said that they told them on the flight that we were welcoming them because they had the water cannons and they drove through, and we didn't want them to think the plane was on fire. So everybody was well aware. But no, it was a good celebration. It's a great new airline, brings new markets here for their travels, and so we certainly appreciate.
And this was kind of the start of the Canadian market opening up, and I think this week the European market opened up, if I'm not mistaken, for flights. So, okay, so we have a motion and a second on this item. Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 20 under American Rescue Plan Act 2021.
And this is approval of grant applications and resulting grant agreements with St. Pete Clearwater International Airport. The total grants, $10.7 million. Of that amount, $979,000 provides relief from rent maximum guarantees, while the remaining 9.8 provides reimbursement for employee payroll expenses. There's no local match to this.
Motion by Commissioner Justice, second by Commissioner Long. And this has to be, when it says obligated by November 30th this year, what does that mean, Barry? Just identified what it's going to reimburse?
Correct, and then expended within 4 years.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Under County Administrator, item 21 is a municipal service taxing unit funding request for Feather Sound.
And this is for a dog park at the recreation area.
Motion by Commissioner Justice, second by Commissioner Peters. This is for a dog park not to exceed $20,000 from MSTU funds. Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 22 is another municipal services taxing unit request.
And this is for the Seminole Junior Warhawks Athletic Association. It's again an MSTU not to exceed $19,600 for improvements to baseball field number 2.
Motion by Commissioner Peters, second by Commissioner Gerard. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to item 23, another municipal services taxing unit request.
And this is for the Florida Dream Center for equipment to increase capacity for residents and mobile food bank programs. So this will provide technology and storage equipment, new laptops and printers, and storage shelving to support the programs. Again, not to exceed $20,000.
Motion by Commissioner Justice, second by Commissioner Long. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 24, resolution to join the Ready for 100 program and establish clean energy targets.
As directed by the Commission, this resolution directs the county to create certain clean energy targets and utilize renewable, zero-emission, clean energy consumption goals by the following years: 50% for countywide operations by 2030 and 100% for county operations by 2040. The county departments are incorporating green energy targets or clean energy targets into their planning process, taking policy and proactive measures to reach those goals. And as you know, we'll be presenting a sustainability action plan in the near future. So this, the program is your effort and direction to keep direct that into our internal operations here within Pinellas County.
Yeah, Commissioner Long.
I got stuck on that comment you made, Barry, about our plan in the near future. What does that near future mean to you?
June. So we'll have so we presented our initial sustainability action resiliency plan to you that set out our clear goals and objectives. They've been working on specific targets and timeline for implementation of those programs, and that's scheduled to come to you in June of this next year with each action item and the timeline for implementation. Some of those we've already done. So for instance, we implemented or we brought to you the our fuel program. Well, that had electrifying our fleet within 5 years to 10 years. And so it already initiated specific actions. So there's some areas we have that, but our entire action plan will be by June of next year.
And so then, if I may follow up, Mr. Chair, so then in June, after we get the action plan, and then as we move forward and things actually happen and goals are met, you'll give us updates?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Go ahead, Barry. Okay. Any questions? I know we have quite a few folks to hear from. I sent everybody yesterday an email just with a couple of comments that I wanted to add. First of all, I wanted to thank a couple folks that have spent time with me this past year and were just, really instrumental in just conversing and discussing and just talking about the program. And so I just really wanted to say thank you to them. And at the same time, some of the thoughts and comments that I had were just that this is an aspirational document that we're putting together for our community, for our organization, for our community. And I certainly appreciate that. And I just wanted to ask for an indulgence because it is aspirational. I think it also needs to be grounded in some reality language that talks about some challenges that we're going to have along the way, and that we need to be open-minded to recognizing the issues in transition. I call it transition because whether it's from now to 5 years from now, or now for 10 years from now, or now 20 years from now, who would have imagined 5, 10 years ago? And I'm sure there's some that are far better forward thinkers than me that had Detroit changing the way that they deliver products, and now we're moving to a lot of more electric cars, hybrid cars, et cetera. And that's going to happen in record numbers, and it's market driven for the most part. And these, as they produce more, the cost of those automobiles comes down. So two things that I wanted to look at. Number one, under item section 3, which is, it is further the goal and policy of the board that 100% of all electricity consumed countywide be clean energy by 2050. And just a question about policy, I'm fine with the goal. For me, it's just a policy is not an ordinance. I understand that, but I want to make sure that I'm comfortable that policy is not a mandate for anybody to do anything, that it definitely needs to be a market-driven thing. So that's the first thing. The second was perhaps your indulgence in adding section 9 to this. And it really surrounds 3 distinct thoughts. And I'm not, obviously a great writer, but I just wanted to put this for your consideration, that the board recognizes that all countries, including China and Russia, must be included for significant improvements to be realized, and further recognizes that many communities will be negatively affected as energy types transition away from coal, oil, and gas, and thus should be made eligible for generational job creation and community revitalization. And further recognizes that any energy transition be accompanied by understanding that both access to low-cost energy and preservation of national security be maintained. Don't think this is anything dramatic. I think it's obvious, but again, in any aspirational document, I think it's a good idea to recognize that there are things that we should be aware of. And because we don't control a lot of the things that are in this document, as far as national policies and that kind of thing, I think it's important for us to at least recognize that there are communities that have carried the burden for decades and decades to bring us electricity to our homes, whether it's coal, gas, and many of those communities are going through difficult times. So I want that to be recognized, and that was the reason for this. And also to make sure that as we do this, that we're not going to be experiencing $5 a gallon gasoline before it's time, so that we do it transition properly and do it right, that we do it so that everybody can participate in using automobiles around our community, and as well as it relates to national security. So that's all I had. I just wanted to add that, basically that paragraph, and then possibly take out the word policy in section 3, and those were my comments. So with that said, I'm not getting a whole lot of conversation right now, so we'll go ahead and open it up to our folks that are here today to speak to us about their views of the Ready for 100. And we will start with Susan Glickman, and then Nick Miller, and then Mary Gherkin.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Susan Glickman, and thank you for meeting nearby to where I live, right here in Bel Air Beach, in a little cottage that was built in 1940 by one of the Tampa cigar families right across from the Gulf of Mexico. And I worry every day about sea level rise and the resulting issues of climate change. It's very appropriate right now that world leaders are meeting this week and last week. And as I drove here this afternoon, I heard that we are pretty much headed for a 4.3 degree rise in temperature. So we have 2.5 degrees locked in, and what does that mean? You all know this. We are in for 2.5 to 3.5 feet of sea level rise by 2050, 2060. That is 30 to 40 years from now. 30 years goes fast, right, Commissioner Long? Just this afternoon, yes, it does. At lunch, I was the founding chair of the Florida Commission on the Status of Women in 1991, and we had a 30th anniversary. Can you even imagine that? At lunch. What we did was we laid the groundwork for what is happening now, and it seems like a long time ago, but Pinellas County Commissioners, you can do this. We must do this, and what we're here doing today is to lay the groundwork to shape the future for what comes next. Up to this point, we've been doing the wrong thing. Florida sends $64.5 billion a year out of state to bring in fossil fuels from elsewhere. We have an incredible over-reliance on natural gas. It's 74% over-reliant on gas. So when we do all the things you're going to be doing, from fleet transition to making your buildings more efficient, we will be reducing that reliance on gas. In the last couple months, all three investor and utilities have come in to pass on additional costs. Florida Power and Light, $302 million, Duke, $248 million, and Tampa Electric, $78 million. And as I was sitting here today to wait my turn, I just saw that came across my news clip that Florida Power and Light's coming in for an additional $810 million for the rising cost of gas. So every single time we make something more efficient, we put up a solar panel, we move away from that. So we're going to do that. I mean, we don't know every answer, as you said earlier, what's happening. I used to work on tobacco policy, and the American Lung Association had a slogan that when you can't breathe, nothing else matters, and that's what climate change is. It is going to dwarf every single other issue, and those that are hurt first and worse that are on the front line, they're going to bear the burden even most. So I'm going to go from the American Lung Association to Nike and say, just do it. And we will figure out the rest of it together. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Susan. Nick Miller, Mary Gherkin, and then Stuart Berger.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Nick Miller. I'm a resident of Clearwater. I'm also here representing Solar Source, a business out of Largo, right here in our backyard. You're probably going to hear a lot more eloquent statements from some of the folks behind me. They're probably much better speakers than I am, but I thought I'd bring to your attention some of the things from a business perspective or things that Solar Source would like to bring up. And that is distributed solar, or the solar that goes on our homes and our businesses, does make for a stronger, more resilient electrical grid. Florida has about 11,000 people working in the solar industry. Our company has about 90 of those individuals, and we're hiring more all the time. These are homegrown, local, high-paying jobs, and we need distributed solar for local job development. Nuclear energy has proven too expensive, and hardworking Florida ratepayers are bailing out the electric companies. This is a problem throughout the country, not just here. Duke Energy ratepayers have a nuclear recovery fee on their bills that they're seeing each and every month right now for nuclear energy that they have not ever once received. Natural gas costs have increased about 16.5% just this year. These increased costs have Florida ratepayers costed about $566 million already this year. Next year in 2022 is projected to be another increase in natural gas. Florida power generation has about a 70% reliance on this volatile priced fuel. Solar is Florida's most abundant resource. Let free trade work and let hard-working homeowners and businesses install solar. We must embrace this clean technology. Clean air and water is a very good thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, Mary Gherkin, then Stuart Berger, and then Brooke Arrett. Hi, Mary. Welcome.
Hi. My name's Mary Gherkin. I'm from St. Petersburg, Florida, and I fully support Pinellas County approving the 100% renewable clean energy proposal. By taking this renewable energy action, you inspire other leaders to address climate change and make Pinellas a livable and safe community while bolstering public health, improving air and water quality, and fostering resilience as we face the upcoming disruptions. We can become the force of change, and we need local change. That's where the power is. That's where your power is. We know the temperatures are rising. We know the seas are rising. There are so many signs, and it's happening so much faster than anybody imagined. So we have to take action, and we have to take it now. All hands on deck, including all of you. Please adopt the clean energy for Pinellas. I've called Pinellas County my home for the last 30 years, and I speak as a concerned citizen and a person of faith. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, and now Stuart Berger, and then Brooke Arrett, and then Brian Beckman. Welcome.
Commissioners, good to see you all. My name is Stuart Berger, Pinellas County resident for 33 years, and I am here to urge passage for the Ready for 100 resolution. To me, climate change is not even a matter of science anymore. It's a matter of common sense. When I learned many years ago that 80% of our atmosphere is within 10 miles of the surface of the planet, I knew we were in trouble. 10 miles is nothing. That's not even from here to Tampa. We live in a closed sphere, and we are simply burning too much stuff. Every day it becomes more and more evident to me that whether you believe in evolution or whether you believe in the Bible, humanity has indeed found ourselves in a position of dominion. Not only do we have a responsibility to keep our planet habitable for ourselves, but we also have a responsibility to do so for all the animals and wildlife that depend upon our actions. Our health and the health of our local economy depends on the health of our environment. Commissioners, the time for debate is over. Now is the time for action. As residents of one of the most environmentally sensitive areas in the world, we must do everything in our power to make sure that the worst does not happen. That can begin with the passage of Ready for 100 resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. Brooke Arrett, and then Brian Beckman, and then I think we go to, there might be a couple of others here. Hi, welcome.
Hi there. Hi, thank you everybody for having us here this afternoon and for introducing this really important resolution. My name is Brooke Arrett, and I live right down the road here in Largo. My husband works for Pinellas County Schools, and his classroom's actually the botanical gardens right behind us. So I love that you guys are here. So I am a lifelong Pinellas County resident. I was born in Morton Plant Hospital, raised on Bel Air Beach, went to schools in Largo, Seminole, St. Pete. I taught in Tarpon Springs, and I've probably canvassed every inch of this county, for many of you as well. And I have to say that as somebody who really knows and loves Pinellas, there's not a better decision we could make for our folks here. I did say I live in Largo, but technically I live in unincorporated Pinellas County. So that's why this is really important to someone like me. I don't have the fortunate experience of being able to have a city that can make this decision. So I have to look to you, the county, because you're the ones who can make this happen. I did get to put solar on my house last year, and now my electricity bill is $11.82 a month. But not everyone has the opportunity to do that alone. And that's where you come in. You can help our most vulnerable frontline citizens to help them in that transition to as well. Because the county is the biggest stakeholder when it comes to talking to folks like those that are running Duke Energy and helping to make the decisions on where our energy sources are coming. And you can help take the hands of every citizen, every community member here in Pinellas County, and bring them with us along the way. Also, Pinellas County is a microcosm for the rest of the country. Every election cycle, people come from all over the rest of the U.S. here to Pinellas County because we can show how other elections are going to go. We've been a leader in the political climate. Well, we can also be a leader in the climate. If Pinellas County makes this decision, not only are you joining the cities here in the Tampa Bay region that have already made that decision, you're joining an entire network of over 180 cities around the country. And together, we can make this decision and we can make change happen. You know, the folks here in Pinellas County, they want their beaches, they want their tourism, they want this beautiful life that we have here. And they don't want to see flooding and worse storms. And a step we can take is by passing this resolution today. And regardless of what dates are set, what matters is that we start now, that we put plans into action, that we don't wait until 2030, 2040 to make these changes. But if a light bulb goes out, put a high-efficiency light bulb in. If we're putting a new appliance into a county building, put a high-efficiency thing in. And then find ways to help our county citizens our county community members with the transition to weatherization and solar on their own homes. So thank you. I look forward to you passing this resolution.
Thanks, Brooke. Okay, Brian Beckman, and then Jonathan Wade. Hi. Good to see you, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is an exciting day. Today we have the opportunity to come together and support our families, our businesses, and our community. Setting clean energy goals charts a path forward that the county will join cities like St. Petersburg, Largo, Dunedin, and Safety Harbor to help reduce pollution and reduce energy costs, help grow our economy, help improve our quality of life now and for future generations. These goals will enable action on energy efficiencies, installation of clean zero-emission energy, and purchasing of clean energy. They also will enable the saving of money that can be reinvested in the community. So thank you for leading and for inspiring all of us to take action to improve our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, Jonathan Wade.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
You're welcome.
I stand today to speak in for the resolution that is before us, 100% clean renewable energy. My name is Jonathan Wade. I am a Reverend. It's Pat Gerard. I am a Reverend of St. James AME Church. I was formerly in St. Petersburg at Collins St. Mark AME Church. I am a lifelong resident, born in Morton Plant Hospital, 1955, and I've seen many changes over the years. Just recently, I joined the co-op for solar in Pinellas County Solar Co-op, and had solar placed on my home to bring down the cost of my electricity and to move towards clean, renewable energy. Also, I'm a business owner. I have a business in North Greenwood, and North Greenwood is probably the lowest socioeconomic community within Pinellas County. And we're looking to change the face of that community, and clean, renewable energy will make the residents there, the bills will go down. It will cause clean energy, the clean air, and we'll be supporting future generations. So I stand today for clean, renewable energy, and I pray that you vote favorably.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, I don't think I have any others here, unless somebody raises their hand that I didn't get. Okay, we'll go online now and start with, I guess, Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have 9 individuals who pre-registered to speak via Zoom. So Melissa Gallivan is my first speaker. It looks like you've already raised your hand. Once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name for the record, state your address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Melissa Gallivan. My address is 1460 Weatherington Way in Palm Harbor, but it's actually Dunedin. The address is just Palm Harbor. I want to speak today to say that I strongly support the Ready for 100 campaign. I support it for the green jobs that will bring and the money it will save our county, but I also support it because it will help us move away from fossil fuel pollution in our air and water, and it will help slow climate change and the warming of our oceans. I'm extremely worried about red tide. According to UF professor and director of the Florida Sea Grant Program, in an excerpt from a document titled Climate Change and the Occurrence of Harmful Microorganisms in Florida's Ocean and Coastal Waters, he states, in 2014, when water temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico were at record highs, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission recorded one of the largest red tide blooms ever, just northwest of Tampa. It threatened beaches from Clearwater to Sarasota, yet remained largely offshore due to prevailing winds. According to the FWC, the red tide may have killed more than 10,000 fish. Of course, I understand that there are many actions that have to be taken to fight red tide, but this resolution is one that should be taken at the same time as those actions. We cannot do it alone, but Pinellas County can be a leader, which will encourage others to join us, and we can work to make sure our county is known for its clean water and air. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, our next speaker is Ms. Kylie Anderson. Ms. Anderson, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application. And then once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name for the record, state your address, you will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Kylie Anderson. I'm a senior that goes to Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida. I am coordinating the 100% renewable energy campaign at Eckerd College with Florida Purge students, working to get our school to commit to 100% renewable energy. I just wanted to voice my support for the county passing the resolution setting goals to transition to 100% clean energy by a certain date. Community all we can do just
Kylie, we're not really getting you. All right, you're in and out, Kylie. We can't really pick up.
Our generation who will have.
Okay, let's go on. Kylie, if you can hear me, we're going to have to call back in. We couldn't hear about every other word at best. So go ahead.
All right, Mr. Chair, I am going to move on to the next speaker, Ms. Lauren Shanks. Ms. Shanks, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application. And then once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name for the record, state your address, you will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. My name is Lauren Shanks, and I'm a resident of Seminole. I am a senior at Largo High School, and I've lived in Pinellas County for the entirety of my 17-year life. I recently learned about the Ready for 100 initiative, and I wish I had known about it sooner, actually. I talked to my friends about it, and I think that I speak for the majority of the student population when I say that we are aware of our environmental crisis and we are concerned for the future. As the younger generation, we are often told that we are the future. However, the possibility of non-renewable resources permanently affecting our ecosystem is concerning. We are worried for the future of our world and are ready to take action. This task, however, can be daunting to think about due to the overwhelming size of the world. Ready for 100 sounds like a great opportunity to not only be more sustainable, but to mobilize our community in being more educated on the topic while taking action. I know specifically in my school, there are a variety of clubs and events that take place to promote sustainability, but Ready for 100 can bring it to the next level for anyone. Specifically at Largo High School, the environmental club that we have has done things like clothing swap drives, and they are currently planning to utilize a garden and a compost system. After researching Ready for 100, this seems like the best way to take our efforts into the next level. The fact that Largo, St. Pete, Dunedin, and Safety Harbor have all converted to 100% clean energy is a step in the right direction. However, now it is time to take a step further, which would be expanding this initiative throughout the rest of Pinellas County. It may seem like a lot to take on, but Ready for 100 is the next step in creating a better and much cleaner future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lauren.
Mr. Chair, our next speaker is Mel Furlis. I believe she was on earlier. I don't see her now, but if you are on under a different name, Mel Furlis, if you could raise your hand. And it does not appear that she's on the call, so I'm going to move on to the next speaker after that. Mr. Bruce Nissen. Mr. Nissen, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application. Once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name for the record, state your address, you will have 3 minutes, sir.
My name is Bruce Nissen, Nissen. I live in St. Petersburg. I'm going to be extremely brief because other speakers have been very, very eloquent on all the reasons why we need to pass this Ready for 100 legislation. I'm completely in favor of it. We've got to do this at all levels of government, not just at the municipal level, but all the way up through county, through state, nationally, and all the rest. That's why I'm asking you to join the other levels of government to commit to this. If we don't, it's going to be a disaster for all of us and for the environment. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
Mr. Chair, our next speaker is Scott McIntyre. Mr. McIntyre, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application. And then once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name for the record, state your address, you will have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Scott McIntyre, the principal with Solar Energy Management and SEM Power, Tampa and St. Petersburg. We're the leader in commercial and utility solar power in the state. Locally here in Pinellas County, we have the largest system installed in the state at Great Bay Distributors at 1.7 million watts. So obviously I'm here in support of Ready for 100, but I want to make a quick business case for the commissioners as to why solar power is a no-brainer. Solar power and energy efficiency is already being worked on by your county staff. I've worked with Hank Hody, your sustainability and resiliency coordinator, and he's doing a great job in benchmarking the energy use of all your facilities. But I can tell you from the real world in Pinellas County, and that's the commercial world, that commercial customers are already purchasing solar power based on the internal rate of return. So when Pinellas County makes an effort to truly benchmark the energy use of their facilities and start to make a goal of getting to 100% renewability, and they purchase solar power at a competitive rate, then the internal rate of return will be exceptional. And the reason why it's exceptional, not only is the lowering cost of solar power if it's purchased correctly, but also because of the elevated cost from Duke Energy. I'm not bashing Duke Energy. They're a great utility. They provide affordable power, but their costs are constantly escalating. So solar power levelizes and reduces energy costs. The fact that we're at ground zero for rising sea level is pretty much a no-brainer as well. So I want to applaud the folks who have put this effort to get this resolution passed, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Robert Vos. Mr. Vos, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application to speak on this item. Again, that's Robert Vos. And once you're unmuted, if you could state and spell your name for the record, state your address, you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Robert Vos. I am from Tampa, Florida. I am a junior at the University of South Florida and the coordinator for the 100% Renewable Energy campaign with Florida Perk students at USF. I'll be speaking in support of the Ready for 100% resolution. As our world continues to warm and the effects of climate change become increasingly apparent, the future of our cities and their people will continue to be in a precarious position, especially in coastal cities as well as in the entire state of Florida. My generation has been increasingly vocal about the catastrophic effects of climate change that will affect the entire planet, and we continue to strive for a better future for all, one that is free of fossil fuels and is more equitable for everybody. We will be the generation to bear the burden of those effects and witness the loss that comes with them, much of which has already begun. Throughout the past few semesters, my fellow students and I at USF have been working steadfastly to commit our university to 100% renewable energy. We have had significant accomplishments, including a student government resolution and nearly 1,000 petitions in favor of a 100% commitment. As a transplant to the Tampa Bay area, I have come to appreciate the abundance of beautiful natural spaces and amazing cities throughout the region, including those in Pinellas County. If no action is taken, these natural areas will become increasingly vulnerable to destruction from climate change and could be lost forever, and our cities will become increasingly unlivable. A commitment to renewable energy will contribute to a cleaner and more equitable future for Pinellas residents and will provide an abundance of jobs for both the short and long term. As cities, counties, and states as well across the nation, as well as universities, continue to commit to 100% renewable energy, their citizens and those of the future will be in the position to share a clean, sustainable, and equitable future. This will be especially important as our cities continue to grow and urbanize in the coming years. I urge you to commit Pinellas County to 100% renewable energy for the sake of current residents, future residents, and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Mr. Chair, our next speaker is Mr. Phil Compton. Mr. Compton, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application, and then once you're unmuted, if you could spell your name for the record, state your address, and then you will have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm Phil Compton, Philcompton. I'm a resident of Tampa. I was for 13 years the senior representative for Sierra Club out of our St. Petersburg state office, working on this very campaign, and I'm currently a member of Mayor Jane Castor's advisory committee for sustainability and resilience. I want to applaud all the words that have been spoken by all the folks so far and the willingness of the commission to listen to us today. You know, 1 out of 3 Americans already live in such a community where we have made this commitment to plan for our future. And that's what we're talking about today. How can we do this and do it our way here in Pinellas County? Pinellas County has St. Petersburg, which you know, was the first city in the South to make such a commitment. Largo, Dunedin, Safety Harbor have followed since then, and Tampa, just a few weeks ago, also made that kind of a commitment. It's a time when there's a lot of talk about this. People go back and forth, but our friends in the business community really need policy certainty. And by passing such a resolution saying that our county is going to make this transition to 100% clean transportation and 100% clean energy, we are giving businesses the knowledge that they need to be part of this and to lead that way. You know, we're known for our sunshine here in Pinellas County. We're known for having the best beaches in America. I saw some news you might not have seen. I didn't see it on the local news, but something shocking happened across on the other side of the state just this weekend. A nor'easter and king tide combined to wipe out miles and miles of beaches. And I saw some video of Canaveral National Seashore, really close to the Kennedy Space Center, where boardwalks were just absolutely devastated and A lot of the beach was lost, maybe irreparably. Now, that hasn't happened over on the Gulf Coast yet, but it could very soon, anytime. The ocean's getting a little higher. The energy in our ocean is growing all the time. So even a no-name type of weather event has the ability to destroy, well, how we make money. I don't have to tell you how much we rely on people coming to our beaches. We certainly don't want to lose them, but it's going to become more and more expensive to re-nourish and rebuild our beaches and harden our shoreline and be as resilient as possible. How do we keep that cost affordable in decades to come? We do this. We stop doing what we're doing that is threatening our way of life, that is threatening our economy, that is threatening everything that makes it wonderful to live here in Pinellas County and Tampa Bay. We transition to another way of life, which is very similar. If you have an electric car, you plug it in instead of filling up with gas. I've driven one for 5 years. I would never go back. PSDA showed leadership several years ago by getting the first electric buses in this part of the country. Duke has installed over 500 charging stations for EVs, and that's just the start.
Hey,
by
Phil.
taking this stand today, yes.
Yeah, just wind it down, please. Thank you.
Okay, just by taking this step today, you show national leadership that you're ready for the funding that it will take to make this transition. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Mr. Chair, our last speaker is Ms. Liz Teichman. Ms. Teichman, if you have joined us today, if you could raise your hand in the Zoom application. Again, that's Liz Teichman. And Mr. Chair, it does not appear that she has joined us, and Ms. Kylie Anderson has not rejoined us as well. She dropped off after her bad audio.
So that's it then?
That's
Okay,
all I have. Thank you.
And nobody else in the back? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we bring it back to us for conversation and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, a few questions. One on, to your point on Section 3, maybe we could have the attorney or someone tell us the difference or what that really means, the goal and policy countywide.
It's really just semantics. I mean, this is a resolution kind of stating your intent to begin with, so I don't see a huge difference in leaving the word policy in or taking it out. I think it's really up to the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I don't know if we wanted to have Hank come up and just kind of give us a short of what this would mean as far as what it would be for county ops.
Sure. Hank is in the audience, and so he's on his way up.
Good afternoon, Hank. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hank Cotty, Sustainability and Resiliency Coordinator with Pinellas County. So we're excited to present this resolution to you today to have a positive effect on operations and investments going forward for the county. We are confident in meeting the goals that are set within it, especially since we are subscribing to the Duke Clean Energy Connection Program that you all supported us to do, and it's going to elevate us into a more renewable future. Internally within operations, we are steadfast in analyzing our energy usage and consumption across our portfolio. We're monitoring not only where we are now, but where we could be in the future, including the space study analysis and any impacts that may have for our future buildings. We're looking at the usage of our traffic lights, of our pumps, of our structures, everything that we're doing with our enterprise asset management program, and trying to work that into what departments are planning for in the future. We're trying to treat energy as an asset and monitor it appropriately, and we're taking the steps right now to ensure that we can first be more efficient, and then install renewables where applicable, and then potentially buy even more renewable energy into the future. So that's the overall basis of this resolution and our approach moving forward. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Hank. Yes, Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, first of all, for all of the speakers that spoke against this. Thank you, Commissioner Gerard, who actually kind of got the ball moving, asking that we move forward on the resolution. The reason why I support keeping the language the way that it is, even though policy versus is really down to semantics, because we have already stated that we support a movement towards resiliency and sustainability. We have a strategic plan that already has that language embedded into it. We've already begun to make the necessary moves to have our fleet electric, to look at the efficiency of our buildings. All of the things that this resolution entails are in fact things that we're willing to do. And so it should not, this is just my feeling, it should not be an issue with putting the word policy in there because we're already moving in that direction. So while things are aspirational, I believe we have really taken more than just a step, but a giant leap into the direction of resiliency and sustainability in everything that we do and in all that we encompass. And as my colleague, Janet, which I'm surprised she hasn't said it yet, as she says at almost every meeting, no matter where we are, that any funding that's coming down from the federal government, especially now since they've passed their package, and hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of a lot of the things that will be on the table for that, they're all looking for things that are energy efficient. And so I think just having that verbiage in there just gives another layer of desired commitment as it relates to what we want to do for sustainability. So it's not that I'm completely opposed, it's just that I don't see anything where the word policy taking out would delete, water down anything that we're already doing. Great job. Thank you so very much. And for those of you that came to speak today, thank you so very much. We appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Commissioner Flowers. Any other comments? Yes, Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Commissioner Flowers, for wondering why I hadn't spoken up. I was waiting to hear what some of the rest of you might think and if whether or not you had truly gotten the message. From some of the conversations that I personally have had with our colleagues in Washington, D.C., who work in the bowels of the federal different departments, if as a local government we intend or are willing to go after grants at the federal level on any of the issues that are some of these big ticket items, we have got to include and show by our actions that we have three very important things that are covered. I've shared that with all of you, as Commissioner Flowers so eloquently said, at almost every single meeting, and I do not have any interest at all in watering down the way in which this resolution is coming forward to us, because it clearly shows that we are dotting I's and crossing T's, and that we mean what we say and we say what we mean. And to do anything other than that is putting the jeopardy of our little kids born today at great risk when they are sitting in these seats that we all now occupy. So if we want to leave to them the paradise that we have created through our actions here on this county commission for Pinellas County, if you go to FAC, you know that we are considered leaders within the state in terms of how we make our decisions. And I would hate to see us start taking steps backwards, because we need to quickly move forward. As I loved hearing from the young high school student, what we're doing here today is not for us. It isn't for us. It's for our kids and our grandchildren. So let's not be so selfish that we worry about what's going on right now today. This is for our kids. So that's my opinion. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Commissioner Long.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Commissioner Gerard.
Now, if nobody else has anything else, I'd like to move approval with this resolution as written.
Motion by Commissioner Gerard, second by Commissioner Seal. And I certainly appreciate your comment on the policy thing, and embedded in a resolution, I think it doesn't carry a weight like that anyway, but, and I'm okay with that. And the only reason I was asking you all about paragraph 9 is because I think it is the reality of what we're dealing with today, and that is empathy for generations of people that have brought power to us in the coal, oil, and gas. It doesn't change anything in this. It doesn't weaken it. It doesn't water it down. And it also says that there are people that we have to be mindful of as we transition to different power sources, that we continue to have availability of all power as we transition through, and that we don't make it so expensive that it's not accessible and available for everybody. So to me, it's empathy. It's a realistic acknowledgement of the challenges that we have. It doesn't change it. It doesn't water it down. It doesn't take a step backward. That was all I wanted to add. In addition to all of the other things that have been talked about today, I'm supporting it, but I do think that is certainly something that this community should understand about the past, and as we go forward, how important it would be to at least say to communities across this country that we care about you. We know that you have to be taken care of. We know you have to be retrained into different kinds of businesses. And it also makes sure that the least of us have accessibility to power, to electricity, to gas, to whatever form of transportation they get. So that's all that paragraph was intended to do. And if the first part must be included for significant improvements to be realized, and if you want to say even more significant, I'm fine with that too. But I do think that recognizes reality that we have today, and as we go forward, we're going to have to deal with to make sure that we do everything that these folks that come here today want done. We need to make sure that we're embracing all of us. So that was the reason for that, putting it in there. It's not about reducing. So, yes. Yep. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
So how about if we include all of what you just said? Would you be amenable to including that when we have our strategic planning session?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we talk about that, all of what you just said,
Mm-hmm.
as one of our, I see what you say, this is how I hear what you say. It's a value that you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And as you use the word empathy, I'm using the word value to mean somewhat of the same thing. But this is about the resolution, and I think your language is better channeled into our strategic plan that is coming right up.
Well,
right, Barry?
In January.
Yeah, in January.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. And I have no problem bringing it up then either. And as I said, this is an aspirational resolution. I think sounds like we're all on board with it. But I do think it's an acknowledgement of, and again, I don't want to get real personal about it, but I've had, 5 and 6 generations of family that have been, that were in the coal mining industry that have had, jobs reduced. I've had communities that have been wrecked. And I want to make sure that whatever we have going forward, that those communities are recognized and realize that we can make a difference and help them transition. It's all about transition. And, for me, it's really important to be part of this resolution. Again, I think it's important to recognize that, if gas prices go up to $6 a gallon because we're transitioning too quickly, that's not acceptable to me. So I want to make sure that we do it on that we recognize and understand access to low-cost energy along the way. That's all I'm doing. I'm just talking about transition and reality. So, Commissioner Gerard?
And my reason for not wanting to include that is that this is a resolution for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's telling us what we wanted. This is our commitment to doing this. We can't do anything about what's happening in counties and the rest of the country. We can't do anything about Russia and China. What we can do is look at our own processes and our own messaging and do what we can do right here. And I feel very strongly that if there is somehow some sort of negative impact on people in this county, because this is about Pinellas County, that we will be looking at that, particularly in low-income neighborhoods. So I would like to leave it the way it is.
Okay. So apparently, we have a motion and a second with the language as is. And I'm sorry that I was not able to convince you all of the empathy that I think is needed across this country and the realization that we have. So it's not going to change how I view us going forward, but I think we're missing an opportunity to make a statement. So I'm sorry about that. So all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to 25, under Economic Development.
This is an award of a bid to Bandus Construction Company for the Tampa Bay Innovation Center Incubator Project, two-story, 45,000 square foot building for $14.7 million. And I think Kevin sent you a breakdown of the cost.
Motion by Commissioner Justice, second by Commissioner Flowers on the construction of our Innovation Center Incubator Project, which I know has been a long, long time coming. And it's really exciting. And I always forget the 4 industries or 5 industries that we always bring up that they're going to hopefully be bringing to this organization. I can't remember them. Barry, can you remember them?
No, but Cynthia's here, and I would defer to...
Who's here that can remember those 4?
Dr. Cynthia Johnson.
Yeah, Dr. Johnson, please.
She's on her way up.
These are jobs for folks that are kindergartners, that they're going to be developing businesses for jobs for folks way. So go ahead, Doctor. Welcome, by the way.
Good afternoon, everyone. Cynthia Johnson, Economic Development. The industries that we are targeting for the Innovation Center are our targeted industries within the technology industry sector. So we're doing AI, fintech, we're doing innovation, research and development, and advanced technologies and advanced manufacturing that we'll be doing. All of the industries that will be located in the incubator will be tied to some form of technology.
Yeah, and there's been a commitment by somebody to put a name on the building and bring a piece of their business to that building as well.
Yes. We have a commitment from ARC Invest Management Group, and so thereby their $2 million commitment has allowed them to get the naming rights of the building. So the building will be called the ARC Innovation Center, and as part of their relocation to Pinellas County, they will have their research division at the incubator as well as their foundation. So their foundation would be there and their research center would be there. But ARC Innovation and ARC Investment is actually a fintech company. It's a financial company. So their actual relocation of the financial investment component will be downtown St. Pete.
Yeah. It would be a brand new 2-story building. And when is it supposed to be delivered?
The incubator?
Yes.
We have an anticipated date of July 2023.
Okay. So just around
so this is a fun day for me. I'm like, ooh.
So
July 2023 is our date that we have slated for completion of the building.
And this is for the construction contract, and that begins soon?
As soon as possible,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Johnson? Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Okay, so we had a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. On to Housing and Community Development, item 26, which is a third amendment to the agreement with Tetra Tech for Emergency Rental Assistance Program Administration.
And this continuation of our housing program, this will add additional assistance in being able to resolve cases and move that whole program along better.
Any questions for staff? Do I have a motion? A motion by Commissioner Gerard, second by Commissioner Peters. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Item 27 under Human Services, a grant agreement with Florida Department of Law Enforcement for the statewide criminal analysis laboratory system grant.
This is funding amount not to exceed $265,000. There's no match requirement, and this grant is supported by court fines and fees.
Motion by Commissioner Peters. I didn't hear who the second. Oh, Commissioner Gerard. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Item 28, notice of grant award from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for fiscal year 2021 American Rescue Act Plan Center Infrastructure Support Funding.
And this will provide an award of $532,000 to increase the square footage of the Bayside Clinic by 1,100 square feet. Again, this will expand behavioral health offices, lobby area, and just increase the capacity.
Okay, any questions for Barry or staff? Do I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Long, second by Commissioner Peters. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 29, under Public Works, resolution dedicating land from Leilman Special Fire District as public road right-of-way for the fire station.
Exactly that.
Okay. Who's the motion? I'm sorry. Commissioner Gerard and Commissioner Flowers was the second. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Under Safety and Emergency Services, a resolution to receive emergency medical service trust fund monies for pre-hospital emergency medical services.
This is $119,000 to be used for 2 automated CPR devices. Also an award to purchase and deploy hydraulic stretchers, stretcher mounts, and accessories.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Gerard, second by Commissioner Flowers. Excuse me, Commissioner Long, I apologize. It was this way and I just said the wrong name. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Under Authorities, Boards, Constitutional Officers, and Councils, under BTS Services, purchase authorization with CDW Government LLC and SHI International for information technology solutions and services as requested by the BTS Group.
This contract is with CDW Government LLC and SHI International. And the types of software, hardware, and stuff are within your packet. Total of $1.9 million for the next 2 years.
Motion by Commissioner Flowers and second by Commissioner Long. Any questions?
1.5 years.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to Emergency Medical Services Authority. This is appointment and reappointment to the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Council. And before we take action, real quickly, I did want to acknowledge a gentleman by the name of Bill Holmes, who's recently passed away. He was on this board for 8 years as a citizen rep, and I'm sure would have been reappointed in some regard to this board. He was a Vietnam vet, which also is relevant to today's whole commission meeting. He was a 30-year policeman with Pinellas Park, and he was active with CASA. So he was certainly a person who gave back to his community, gave back to this board, and I just really wanted to take a moment to acknowledge Mr. Holmes and our condolences to his family. With that said, do I have a motion for approval of this appointment and reappointment? Commissioner Peters on the motion, Commissioner Seal on the second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now, under County Attorney, Jewel?
Under item number 33, I'm requesting authority to file suit in the case that is referenced. This relates to construction issues at the airport.
Motion by Commissioner Peters. Second by Commissioner Justice. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a quick question for the attorney, kind of relevant to that agenda item. We heard from a citizen this morning or this afternoon about our suspension process, and I know you're working on putting together a kind of an info sheet for us on what that process is. But can you also do a little research and tell us how many times we've actually used that since, I don't know how long our ordinance has been in place, but how many times we've used it? That will help us kind of decide how it's being utilized.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
15 and 24 years.
Yeah. So what's that, Barry?
15 times in 24 years.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gerard?
Yeah, I just had a question about that too. It seemed like suspension over conflicts about contracts and, situations like this in that policy were pretty much equated with fraud and criminal activity, which seemed not quite right to me. I mean, I think fraud is a whole different thing than maybe not meeting the contract or whatever it is we're suing about at this point. But, that's fraud.
We would rather discuss these with you one-on-one.
I'd just like to see a little bit more analysis of that.
There is a lot more detail regarding these issues in these cases, and it's. Okay.
Yeah, I think that, and yeah, we just need to make sure that, we're up to speed on and there are significant ramifications for doing business in other communities if this action's taken. So, I mean, it's a big deal when this happens, and I'm sure we'll have that one-on-one discussion. But I also think, we have to be careful. And again, we don't do it often, but it's significant in our discussion. So go ahead. I know we have something else.
Under item number 34, this is again the placeholder that we've had on my agenda for some time now. I did share with each of you yesterday the report that came from your redistricting board, and we have the county's consultant here today, Kurt Spitzer, to go over that report with you.
Okay, thank you, Jewel. And Kurt, welcome. Good to have you here today and to give us a little summary of the work that the group has done.
Yes, sir. Good to be here in Pinellas County. Always good to come home, and it's always a privilege to work for Pinellas County. I appreciate it very much. You have the report from the redistricting board. Pinellas County is one of 3 charter counties that provide for a citizens advisory committee to propose recommendations for your consideration. You're not bound by those recommendations or proposals. The committee operated on an accelerated timeline. As you may know, the census data was quite late this year due primarily to the pandemic. Should have been received by states and local governments March 31st. We received it mid-August, and that data was in what's called a legacy format, which is final data, but you still need to do quite a bit of work with the data to make it usable in the redistricting process. And so the committee, the redistricting board, met a total of 4 times, but did have also 4 community meetings where people could comment on some of the draft maps that the redistricting board had considered at that time. There were 4 recommendations that the redistricting board put forth for your consideration. But before I get to those, I'd like to talk just a little bit briefly about criteria in the process. And this is discussed in the memo to you from the redistricting board chair. There's several of them. First is population. Population is the dominant criteria that is used in the redistricting process. Districts should be as nearly equal in population to one another as is possible. And generally speaking, if districts are less than 3 percentage points over or under the average, that's good. That's a good thing. When districts, when the disparity between the largest and the smallest district is greater than 10 percentage points, that throws up a red flag in the court system. So if you had a district where the largest district was 7 points over, the smallest was 5 points under, that's a disparity of 12 points. That's a problem. The situation in Pinellas County was the polar opposite of that. The existing districts, as they are currently drawn, both for single member and for the at-large districts, are well within acceptable tolerances in terms of population deviation and other common criteria that you use. There are some housekeeping changes, I would call them housekeeping changes that should be considered. And then there were 2 policy changes that the redistricting board recommended for your consideration. In terms of housekeeping changes, the Bureau of the Census from time to time will change the shape of census blocks. This is of no interest if a block is embedded in the middle of a district. If a block is along the boundary line between 2 districts and the boundary line no longer follows that block boundary, then you need to consider making some changes or adjustments there. In the single-member plan, there were 4 blocks that abutted boundaries, and we would recommend that you consider change of those. All of the populations here were very minimal in terms of changing. In the at-large districting scheme, there was only 2 blocks that abutted boundary lines between 2 of the at-large districts. So those are sort of housekeeping changes. Those were contained in all of the plans, but in Plan 1 for single-member districts, that was the only change that was made. In Plan 4, which was the plan for at-large districts, that was the only change that was considered there. There were 2 other recommendations from the redistricting board concerning single-member districts. One was to move Clearwater Beach and Island Estates from District 4 into District 5. Along with that change, the policy recommendation was to further flatten the boundary line between District 5 and District 4 to follow Sunset Point Road, so that District 5 and District 4 are more compact. Compact districts are a common goal in the redistricting process, a common criteria that's used in that process. Proposal 3, yes, sir.
Yeah, and that Sunset Point that you're talking about is really from Keene to McMullen Booth. So it kind of follows that road. To the east and to the west of that, it does jog a little bit, right? I mean,
it does, and this is that line right here. Let me talk about the symbology here. The existing districts are the shaded areas. Under this particular proposal, and which is in your packet, the blue line is the proposed district line, and so it would capture all of Clearwater Beach going into District 5, and then would continue along Sunset Point here and go to
that's McMullen Booth.
McMullen Booth, thank you, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure I was clear. Can you go back to the west there?
Yes.
Just real quickly, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Okay, so then it goes up to Keene to Union, and then that goes to the water, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean it. I wanted to just make sure I was clear on that Sunset Point piece that you were talking about.
So that was one, this is a policy change for your consideration. Then the other change that was recommended by the redistricting board is to further one of the criteria directly embedded in your charter, and that is to follow, where feasible, municipal boundaries when drawing commissioner district boundaries. And so in proposal number 3, the boundaries between districts 5 and 6 and 6 and 7 were adjusted so that portions of the city of Seminole and Pinellas Park are moved so that they are contained all within District 6, and that the city of Largo is completely contained within District 5. Those were not significant portions of those cities, and it's, as you may imagine, impossible to not split the city of St. Petersburg and the city of Clearwater. But in those a few areas there, the intent of this plan was to ensure that those cities are contained within each of certain single-member district boundaries.
Do you have that drawing?
Yes, I do.
Okay. This is-
So here, and I can, this is the city of Seminole. And I know this gets a little bit cluttered here, but if you see these areas here, this area here, that is within the city of Seminole, and these boundary lines here and here are adjusted so that Seminole is all within District 6. Then, in the portion of District 7, which contains part of, I believe it's Pinellas Park, I think. This area here, parts of the city go into the existing district boundary, and so this line was moved slightly south so that all of Pinellas Park is contained in District 6. Yes, yes. And we were careful. It's not a significant number of persons.
Yeah, on these pages you gave us with the population, I just want to make sure that I was clear that the population white, population black, and population other make up the 100%, and then the population Hispanic is part of the population other? Because it doesn't add up to 100.
That's correct. That's right. Black and white are people who identify themselves as being a single race, black or white person. Other is, in terms of race, every other possible permutation of race. It could be other races, individual races, Native American, Asian American, or it could be some combination of multiple races. And it could be 2 races up to 6 races that someone has identified themselves as being. And so I will say that one thing that was very obvious in this census as compared to previous census, the number of people who indicated that they were multiple race has grown significantly. And nationally, it was up by 270%. Perhaps some people who previously had indicated that they were single race white or single race black now checked off other. So that's what other is. Hispanic is not a race, but an ethnicity. And so you could be white Hispanic, black Hispanic, or something else.
So they could be embedded in any of the numbers?
They are.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
If you want to get to the total, it's other, black, and white.
Gotcha.
That's the total.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Go ahead.
Then as we were saying, the third recommendation in terms of single-member districts was to adjust the single-member district boundaries so that all of these cities, where possible, were contained within one district boundary. And that is a guidance in the charter. It's not mandatory, but it's a directive to the redistricting board. And it's a common criteria anyway in the normal process.
And you looked at the first proposal 2 and then proposal 3 independently were given to us, but you could conceivably do both.
You could.
One or neither, right? So,
you could.
Okay.
We would recommend that you consider that at least the housekeeping changes. It's more of a ministerial sort of a change. But beyond that, you could consider the Clearwater Beach adjustment along with the adjustments in proposal number 3, which attempted to not split municipal governments.
And it doesn't affect the numbers if we did both?
Not in a significant way. All of your numbers, by the way, including the existing plan, are very good. They are well within acceptable tolerances in terms of deviations from the mean. So.
Okay. Any questions? Yeah, Commissioner Peters.
No, thank you. I think they did a really good job in a very quick time. I do like the idea of compactness in Proposal 2, but I also would support the housekeeping to keep each city kind of whole. So I like the combination of 2 and 3 to be considered on the single-member districts. I think it just makes sense to not have Seminole or Pinellas Park would have 2 different ones for one little section. And
right.
Yeah, I think that gets confusion. And Largo, I think it's like 4 precincts or something like that. It's pretty minor.
It is. In terms of population, the area that moved from District 7 into District 6, right along this boundary here, was the most significant. That's about 2,100 people that were moved there. All of the other ones were less significant. And even with these changes, it does not affect the deviations from the mean in a significant way for any of the districts.
On that 6 and 7 there on the Tampa Bay side, is there it goes up there at the end? Is that adding some of what?
That is just the shape of a census block. I believe this is over the water, actually.
Okay.
It's
All right.
insignificant.
I couldn't tell. Thank you.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Seal.
One of the proposals had instead of Sunset Point Road, going to Enterprise. And early, I mean, that was presented in one of the newspaper articles. What happened to that?
There was one plan early on when just Clearwater Beach was moved into District 5, and only a corresponding number of people was moved from the countryside area from District 5 into District 4. When we started looking at that, we considered, why not try to flatten that boundary line out a little bit more, and that's how we got to this proposal that was in your packet today. But that plan did not receive the required 6 votes of the redistricting board to make that proposal come to you today.
I like the proposal 3. I agree that putting Largo and Seminole into the appropriate districts is probably good. I do want to say that, you're going to separate Clearwater one way or the other. You're going to separate the beach from countryside, and I will tell you that Countryside has always felt like they were the stepchild for Clearwater. It's just the way Clearwater annexed and grew, and they were the only ones willing to build Countryside at the time and provide sewer and water. So having lived there for over 20 years in Countryside, I can attest to that. I won't be here in 2024, so but I would make the argument that one, Countryside would probably like to stay where it is, and then second, there is also a swath, especially near Enterprise, of unincorporated neighborhoods. So I always think about the workload that goes on in District 4 and the fact that I had actually thrown out an idea, and it was really for districts 4, 5, and 6. It was not reported that way. That maybe look at redoing that and going more north-south, because I do feel like there is a disproportionate amount of work that goes into District 4, because there's large amounts of unincorporated area that are in that district. But, you know, I just wanted to mention that that was one idea I had had. It would be pretty dramatic at this point.
It would. There was a plan that was considered for a time by the redistricting board that ran the dividing line between districts 4 and 5 on a north-south manner, so that the unincorporated area in the northern part of the county was split. That, like the other plan, did not receive the required number of votes to come forward.
Mm-hmm.
You're not bound by these recommendations.
Right, I know.
And you could consider other things as well.
Okay.
Any other, yeah, Commissioner Peters.
So I understand your thoughts on Countryside. I get that. But, you know, when you represent the beaches, when you represent them all, it's congruent. And so I think putting Clearwater Beach in there when you still have all the Indian Rocks beaches makes it congruent that you have all the beach communities. And so I understand what you're saying about Countryside, but there's no way to keep Clearwater whole. And I think the compactness of this, it fits the guidelines so much better. But just on the beaches kind of thing, you know, I represent the beaches. I've represented the beaches for a long time. And I think when you have all the beaches, then you understand the whole concept. So, you know, where Clearwater Beach has one person, and then the Indian Rocks have another person, and then the other ones have another person. I like the idea of putting Clearwater Beach with the Indian Rocks beaches, and them having one person in which is their district. So I don't think you can keep Clearwater whole. I love the compactness of this. I think it fits the guidelines and the purpose that we're supposed to do. And so I still support the housekeeping of 3 and the combination 2. I like 2 and 3.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, when we're looking at the proposal 2, which straightens out that east-west a little bit, I'm assuming that when the first plan that brought the Countryside down to Enterprise, at least I think that's what you mentioned, Commissioner, that it did not, that the balance was just leaving the boundary the way it was, bring it down to Enterprise, and that the rest of that boundary stayed in that.
The rest of the boundary stayed right here, and this boundary was up around here.
Yeah.
And I perhaps can find that very quickly. Nope, wrong one.
Could we at least receive that as an alternative?
Yeah, that's fine. You mean the Enterprise and then leaving the lines like they are there? Yeah.
Just to see it mapped out and see what the population would be?
And we will, just as folks that might be watching, we will be talking about this at our December 2nd workshop, but also making the final decisions at our December 7th commission meeting, just as an aside. So
here is this.
Yeah, there it is.
Clearwater Beach goes into District 5, and then this area of District 5 goes into District 4.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't lived in Countryside for 20 years, but I talk to a lot of people in that area, and you know, depending on which side of the street I'm talking to, it's different. You know, like on the inside of country, you know, of Countryside Boulevard is one thing, and then you go over to not Landmark, but Landmark, yeah, the other north side. If you're on the inside, so it's very confusing. I like the idea of bringing it down, whether it's down to Enterprise or down to Sunset Point. I still consider both at this point, but yeah, I understand the idea of trying to straighten the lines out a little bit, but I think the other administrative things, are the administrative things in 1 and 4 also embedded in 2 and 3? The
administrative things in 1 are embedded in 2 and 3.
Okay.
1, 2, and 3 are all single-member plans.
I got you, yeah.
4 is the at-large plan.
I got you. Yeah, Commissioner Flowers?
Just a question, and thank you, great work. I've watched some of the videos and it was very informative. On proposal 3, if we are to have our boundaries remain contiguous, and since the way that District 5 is kind of carved out with the shoe, I guess is what I'll call it, and so you're splitting, District 4 splits, will that give rise to any concern for possible challenges to this particular map if it were selected?
Which we're talking about Plan 3?
On RB Proposal 3, you have the little, I'm calling it the upshoe for District 5. So that causes District 4 to have that separation so that that boundary is not contiguous. District 5's boundary is not contiguous like you have it in Proposal 2. I'm just asking, would that draw any concern because that may not be considered contiguous since it's not free?
Well, you mean in the Clearwater Beach area?
No. See the little stocking, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Yeah, that.
Well, this is all contiguous. All of these plans meet the criteria for contiguity.
Okay.
Now, in the existing plan, where Clearwater Beach is in District 4, it's assigned, it's contiguous because of water. But you can't get by land from the main part of District 4 to Clearwater Beach, except by driving through District 5.
It's been this way since 2000.
Yeah.
And it was basically, the water argument was made. And then to Commissioner Peters' point, I think when you have 3 people who could represent the beaches, it's very important when you go to do undergrounding or get the penny for Pinellas funding to know that you have District 4 representing Clearwater Beach, a big population, and then District 5 representing Sand Key south to Indian Shores, and then District 6, the rest of the beaches. So, you can make the argument that you get more representation with a single member district. So,
Thank
with more of us.
Anything else that you'd like to, I think what these 3 or 4 that you brought us, and then I think if you could just bring the one of these maps for us at the next meeting that shows that Enterprise Road, bringing it down to Enterprise and just taking a look at that and the numbers that, so we can see those, call it Proposal 2B or something, 2A and 2B. Commissioner Justice.
I did have a question on the at-large map.
Yes, sir.
The District 1 and 2 on the very north, is that the Tarpon Springs city limits that juts over east of 19 at the very top there?
Give me 1 second, please.
Giving them all names.
It doesn't look like they've added the new area that was annexed, right? Or
This is Tarpon Springs here. And this is the new boundary here in this area. It's the same criteria in at-large systems or in counties that have all at-large systems. But in my view, they are not, the focus there is not as sharp as it is with single-member districts. And so, we did not follow the city limit boundary here, and there's other places as well where the at-large residential boundaries, split cities as well.
Right, I assume that was the case on that one, but to be honest, I never really looked at that map on that edge as closely as I did yesterday when we got these. Just because when you see it in the color like that, it juts out at you and you notice it. And then my other question is really, it's the same question I've asked for the last several meetings is, if we have an idea for a map that's different than one of these, but I actually, like Commissioner Steele mentioned about wanting to see something drawn out, how do we do that?
Well, we can talk. My plan was to, before your next meeting, was to talk with you individually like we did some time ago, and we could talk about that at that time too.
Okay, all right. I do have a couple thoughts, but I'd rather work it with you to see if the numbers line up and if it's not crazy as far as those kind of things before presenting it to the commission. So I will look forward to that opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions at this point? Okay. Well, I guess you'll be meeting with us in the next couple of weeks.
I will.
And then, and whatever input you get there, you might bring something back on the December meeting, December 2nd workshop.
December 2nd, yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
You are currently scheduled to take a vote on this at your meeting in December because you need to accomplish this during the odd numbered year, and you'll of course only have one meeting in December.
Any other questions before we move on? Go ahead, Joel.
If we're done with redistricting, I just had one more thing to cover on my agenda.
Yep, that's it on redistricting.
At the agenda review last week, I passed out to each of you a written policy and follow-up to the conversation.
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Before we jump, I already made one mistake on the third amendment with Tetra Tech. There was Eric Garduno that was on my list here to take input from, and I don't think Kat saw anything online, but I don't know that she was looking, in fairness, and I forgot to bring it up. So without making a second mistake, because I do have a card here from, I guess is somebody here in the room by the name of John Patrick Estock. We're going to hear from him first. That was on the redistricting, and I apologize for almost missing you too. So if you just state your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm John Patrick Estock. I wanted to say about the redistricting, keeping the cities and towns whole was really important to me. I wish they had done a better job. Everybody says Clearwater. I know St. Petersburg can't be kept whole, but I wish Clearwater, if Clearwater can't be kept whole, I think what I would call mainland Clearwater, Countryside, the Sand Key, Island Estates, and Clearwater Beach. And I agree with what I heard, the stepchild is Countryside. 10 years ago, I lived in the San Fernando Valley in LA, and Countryside reminds me of the Valley. I bet if you held a secession vote in Countryside, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it would pass. Like it happened 30 years ago in LA. But anyways, I also, there was reference to a memo in this map. This wasn't, it wasn't online. I don't know if that was supposed to be public or not. I wish it had been. The most popular, I went to the last 2 redistricting board meetings, and besides what were referred to as housekeeping, which was the census block changes, was keeping things as they were, except for making Seminole, Pinellas Park, and Largo whole. The Clearwater things, that's kind of where it started. That was a little more, one of those passed 6-5. But that was the thing, keeping the cities and towns whole, that was 9-2. So that was I think a lot of people, that was just kind of common sense. And I look at maps and I see like Seminole and 3 different, that'd be a good trivia question. Which city in Pinellas County is divided the most, 3 different districts? It begins with an S. Everybody will say St. Petersburg. No, it's Seminole. But that's my biggest thing. And like I said, I would prefer to keep mainland Clearwater whole, countryside, and then the beaches, that could be District 4, another district. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. And yeah, and again, my apologies to Mr. Garduno for missing him on that one item. So, all right, Jewel.
Okay, last week at the agenda review, I handed out to each of you a written policy that was basically a summary of the discussion that you all had at a prior workshop related to virtual appearances at your meetings. Keeping in mind that this policy would also apply to the advisory boards to county government. So this policy, I handed it out, like I said, to give you all an opportunity to take a read through it. This really, it really memorializes the practice that the board has long undertaken in regard to its commission meetings. One thing I did draw your attention to last week when I handed this out is the portion that you'll see in red. We did loosen it up just a bit in regard to your work session meetings. So that's a little bit different than the discussion that you all had back when we did discuss this, but it seems to be in keeping with sort of a process that's unfolding. So in any event, I have this here before you today. This is certainly something you can vote on today. We can take more comments on it. But this would essentially put into place a policy that really memorializes what you currently do.
Okay. And so, again, this is just, I think it does a pretty good job of saying that we're going to be a little looser in workshops than we are in commission meetings. And the only question that I, was looking at this was what we want to require in play, to be here. And I say that either we require everybody to be here or not participate, or we require just a majority of people, a quorum, to be present to do it, or something in between. I don't want to necessarily get in the game, and the future chairman probably, in deciding first come, first serve, who asked first, you get to weigh in or not. So I don't know how we would do that part. So it's either a quorum present or everybody must be present to participate. So that was the only thing. And I was thinking about that as it related more to commission meetings. So that was the only thought, because the more people that we have calling in for a meeting or being online, so they have to be visual and, so you have to hear them and see them, is the management issue that's going to be required. Now, it doesn't mean Kat can't do it if there's 3 commissioners that are weighing in, but it is more difficult to manage a meeting. And so just maybe your thought, Kat, on that front.
So the only thing that I'd mention is that I'm not here for work sessions. As a regular policy, the clerk does not attend work sessions. So to the extent that during regular meetings, from a technical standpoint, I'm able to see everybody on the Zoom application. There's a little bit more management with it, but it's doable from a process standpoint.
Thank you. Yeah, that's why I kind of separate the 2 conversations, because you're right, you're not here during our workshop, so we manage it ourselves, kind of. And you guys get mad at me sometimes because I miss who wants to speak next, and it's going to be even more difficult that way. But anyway, any initial thoughts? Charlie, Commissioner Justice.
Thank you. Well, I was just a process technical question. Are we able to have the screen show split screen kind of thing, to where we have let's say that we did have 4 here and 3 online. Can we show the 3 commissioners online in little boxes along with the screen that we see?
I'm going to defer to communications to answer that, because they're the ones who handle how you view the screens.
Yeah, Barbara, if you want to come up, maybe at least provide some so we can hear you. And
Barbara Hernandez, Director of Communications. I'm going to have to check on that for you as far as how many of the screens we can split. Typically, we've done the 2 side by side, so let me check on that.
Yeah, I think it's just, like, to your point, it's, you can see the commissioner when they want attention, but it's also, it's making the participation as participatory as possible, all things considered. Yeah. And then my only other thought would be, and I'm fine going a little looser on workshops. I think we should hold pretty strict on the actual meetings. And then I would say that if you're going to participate, I would like it to be a visual, not a phone participation.
Agreed. And so on that, are you also suggesting that on the commission meetings, that to participate, that you have, that you're sick, but you can still participate, or that you have a family emergency, or what of those two, or just, I just want to make sure as we talk about this, what you're thinking.
We've never had, like, you know, obviously the pandemic changed everything of how we do this. I think emergency, you know, and we use our judgment of what that means. Obviously, it doesn't mean vacation. It doesn't mean travel. It doesn't mean those kind of things. But I think it should be a pretty high bar as far as
family emergency.
Yeah.
Well, and if I can just maybe point out a couple of things just in response to some of the conversation. I would draw your attention to the definition of virtual attendance that we have included in the policy, which requires real-time electronic communication that permits both audio and visual interactions. So we did cover that. If you wanted to make it something other than that, we would need to, you know, change that language. I don't know if you're open to something different maybe for work sessions, but we did define virtual attendance to include both audio and visual. And then again, just to remind everybody, you have to have a quorum physically present here. And that's the policy does reflect that for both work sessions and meetings at this point. And what we did is really, what you'll see on page 1, where we've got 1A through F, those are some of the things that really come from Attorney General opinions and things that we're kind of just really stating the law that's out there. On the second page, we gave you all some additional considerations that was, again, based on the conversation that you had here, to consider when you undertake a vote the day of a meeting where somebody may be attending virtually.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Law.
I agree with Commissioner Justice. I mean, you know, we're all adults here, and we all knew when we ran for the county commission that there were certain meetings we had an obligation and a responsibility to attend. If there's an emergency, you know, life happens. If there's emergency and something's going on that absolutely prohibits you from being here, well, that's one thing. But just to arbitrarily decide, oh, I don't feel like going there today, it's raining out, or, you know, whatever. I mean, to me, that's just nonsense. And I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel. You know, I as an example, I was at the APTA conference this weekend, and I left this morning to get back here and was really worried about the traffic on I-4, that it would hold me up and keep me from being on time. But I made it. And I could have just as easily said, oh, I'm over at the APTA conference. There's lots going on. It's really important information that I would need to have for the boards that I sit on. But I'm smart enough to recognize I can get that information. My colleagues are over there still from those different agencies. But I came back, and I just assume that, you know, the rest of us will act accordingly because we're grown-ups. So I don't think we should have all that wiggle room. I mean, we've been functioning very well the way we've been going, and I think it's working pretty okay. And I don't know that we've ever not been able to meet because we haven't had the number of people here. We work hard to accommodate each other. So that's my thought. Thank you.
Okay. So hearing a couple of you know, emergencies accepted, and of course, you know, you'd have to, at least the way it's written now, at the morning of the meeting, and that was the other thing that we talked a little bit about before, but you'd get online and say, look, I have an emergency, and I'm asking to participate because I can break away from something and be a part of the meeting. The other comment, I think we talked a little bit about, can you get permission ahead of time for like, let's say you're at a workshop. I know we can't vote on things at workshops, but maybe we can't vote on this either. So, but is there, you know, you're going to anticipate being at a, you know, but I don't know how you anticipate emergencies, but, you know, that's the tough part. So for me, you know, I think we need to be here as more than not, so that we need to have, you know, emergencies accepted. And that to me just happens all of a sudden. And then you have to come online that morning and state your case and get approval by the board. We're just talking about commission meetings right now, not workshops. So just want to see how folks feel about commission meetings, so we can separate these two dialogues. Commissioner Seal, sorry.
Well, I concur with the commission meetings that, probably should be present here because you are doing actual votes, but for work session, I guess because it just recently happened and I would have liked to have been there, I would like to participate using the visual and the audio if possible. And it would probably be very seldom.
So again, getting back to the actual commission meetings, we're talking about emergencies accepted. Is that what we're saying? Are we talking about, I mean, I guess being sick at the last minute, that's kind of an emergency, so it falls under that?
What's wrong with the way we've been operating?
You mean,
Are we trying to
if
fix
you're,
something that's not
no,
really
I'm,
broken?
look, if my preference is that if you're here, you're here. If you're not, then you don't participate. That's the way I feel. But we're trying to see if, because of this new wave of virtual access that we've gone through the last year and a half, do we want to amend that a little bit and allow a little, allowance that if you have a family emergency and you're out of town, but you can break away for the meeting, do we want to allow that? That's all. I mean, if we don't, I'd rather be that we have to be here in person at work, at commission meetings, but,
Well, and one other thing I'll draw your attention to, towards the bottom of page 1, we have noted there, the county commission has made the legislative determination that in-person attendance at public board meetings has intrinsic value, and virtual attendance at meetings where official business will occur, so that's a meeting such as today's, should be limited to rare, extraordinary circumstances as approved by a board on a case-by-case basis. This policy, again, to be clear, it does not change your current practice in regard to these meetings where you're taking your business meetings. It would loosen things up a little bit for your work sessions.
Okay. So again, I hear you. So I want to I want us to be okay and set what we're doing for commission meetings first, and then we can switch over to workshops. Commissioner Justice.
Yeah, thank you. I think that extraordinary circumstances is probably a great phrase rather than emergency.
Yeah.
And
it covers more.
It covers more, and if I was too sick to come in, I was too sick to.
I agree.
Go through, make a $2 billion decision on the vote. So, I don't think I've ever asked to participate because if I was too sick to be there, I was too sick to want to go through the meeting. So I like that extraordinary circumstances. I think we have kind of gotten a little more casual because of our comfort with Zoom and online and everything. I think we should kind of tighten that back up to where we were pre-COVID.
I agree. I do too. So any other thoughts? Commissioner Gerard.
Well, I like the way we have it written for that part. Actually, I like both parts, but I know we're just dealing with part 1 here. Because I think it does cover if you have to leave town for a funeral or something and the funeral's not till tomorrow morning. I mean, I think it's appropriate to be, if you had to travel, but not for vacation, but for something where you have to be out of town. I like the extraordinary. And in fact, in most extraordinary cases like that, I wouldn't be coming to the meeting either.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Virtually or otherwise. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed. Commissioner Seal.
Well, the only thing I will say is you all were kind enough to let me attend virtually a few times this year because of health issues. And honestly, you would have been very happy that I wasn't here because I would have just spread my germs. but we didn't know if I had COVID, so I was trying to be out of abundance of caution, and so I just state that just so that I think I'm much more sensitive than I ever used to be about showing up someplace with a cold.
So what, I'm sorry. Yeah, and again, I think the argument that you would make on that morning would be that would be considered under extraordinary just because it was pandemic related only because you're not sure that what you might or might not have, and you feel good enough to participate, but so we just vote on that and say, yep. Or so again, are we pretty comfortable with that policy? I'm seeing heads nodding or nods heading, heads nodding okay, how about workshops? Yeah. Do we want more latitude, or do we want to do the same thing that we just did for commission meetings, have the same policy for workshops, or do we want to allow a little more latitude?
In general, law does look at work session type meetings with greater latitude, I'll say, than it does for your business meetings, because you're not taking a vote. And we've talked about this at your work sessions before, and just taking the very extreme and abundantly cautious point of view, we've had you all vote to allow attendance just under the guise of, we'll eventually take a vote on this item at a business meeting. But the fact is, you're going to discuss it again at that business meeting. The public is going to have an opportunity to comment on, whatever the topic may be at that business meeting. And it's really those meetings that the law is more focused on. So again, really what we've written for you here in regard to workshops, it's a little bit more lenient than you've been with yourselves in the past, but certainly supported by the Attorney General opinions that we have on this topic, which is really the only good guidance out there, because there just really aren't any cases on it.
And real quickly, Jewel, on this item, on the workshops, do you have to get approval the morning of the meeting? Is that the same thing we're doing on workshops? They don't have to be, in this case, we're talking not extraordinary circumstances. We're just...
Correct. And we're not saying that you really need to get advance approval. Of course, we need to know far enough in advance that we can enable the technology to make it happen. So that's the one caveat I would throw out there, and I don't know what's required, but I know that something's required. So we would certainly need to have enough notice to be able to enable that, at least, here on our end, certainly.
So up to each of the commissioners to maybe let the chair's office know so that they can let technology know that we may have a vote on that kind of...
And that you would have a quorum.
Well, yeah, that too. We have to have a quorum for workshops.
Correct. So that way we know if 4 people come and say, which has never happened, but if you did, well, then we'd have to say, wait a minute, we got an issue.
We're still going to strongly recommend that we all come in person for workshops, because I think it has value for us to all be together. But I guess, yes, Commissioner Justice.
Yeah, I'm okay being a little more flexible on workshops, obviously, because of the nature of the meeting and because of the legal requirements. But I still think, there's a lot of challenges that come with this job, but calendar is not one of them. And so, we're elected, show up to the meetings, and I guess if we have, someone who is abusing it, every single workshop, then that's a different conversation. But I think right now we're all kind of pretty good place about respecting the process, showing up for the meetings, showing up for the workshops. And if we get to a point where someone's abusing it, then I think we could revisit.
Okay. So again, just for clarification, we're not being required, we're being asked to let the chair's office know so that we can let technology know that we are going to have 1, 2, or 3 people virtual for a workshop. And they don't have to give reasons for it. It's their own conscience, I guess, if you will, because we really want you here. I mean, I think our residents want you here too, and then we don't have to get approval that morning. Is that what I'm seeing heads nodding?
And I don't know what would happen on the rare occasion where the 4th person calls the chair's office and the chair just says, sorry, you have to show up.
Yeah.
Because, for quorum.
I'm probably lean the other way, so I'd probably rather do it just the way we do regular meetings, because I think we do it anyway. I think we pretty well do things the way we're supposed to do things. And it just, to me, that loosening that up makes me, concerned. So I'd rather have the same rules and regs that we have for our regular meeting as workshops as well. Yeah, I don't know why else you wouldn't come to a workshop other than what,
Yeah, I think, and I'm fine. My willingness to go loose, but my preference is what you just said.
Yeah. So, I don't know how, I want to see how everybody feels about it, but from my perspective, I think we're all doing it anyway. The way we're talking about handling commission meetings, that we could handle our workshops the same way. Extraordinary circumstances, you have to get approval the morning of. I think in all cases, when you notify the chair's office ahead of time, we'll just let staff know that we're going to have 1, 2, or 3 people that are seeking permission at a workshop or at a, again, I'm saying workshop because we haven't really decided that one yet, but that we're all doing it under extraordinary circumstances. I think that's a good word. I'm glad you came up with that word, because it really raises it to a pretty high level of why I'm not here. So so we got to talk workshops. That's all. I'm just finishing up. Want to make sure that, are we okay with the extraordinary for both?
Yes.
Okay, I'm seeing. I got 3 yeses nodding. Okay, all right, fine. Then let's get this thing written back up for that both workshops and the regular meetings will be treated the same way. Extraordinary circumstances, approval of the meeting, the morning of the meeting.
Okay, and not to belabor this, but the way this is written, this does apply to your advisory boards as well. So I'm going to suggest that perhaps we take advisory boards out of this policy so that perhaps your citizen appointees might be able to operate under some more relaxed type of standards, and we can just handle those on a case-by-case basis with the boards that we advise. But I would suggest that you at least perhaps consider eliminating the advisory boards from this policy. And we will redraft it and bring it back to you all so that it would apply the same standards for both workshops and meetings, and take your advisory boards out if that is the will of the board.
I think that's a good idea. Do they have like bylaws that say you can be removed if you don't come to meetings? I mean, obviously we can't do that, but
It's going to vary. It's going to vary by board depending on how they were set up originally. Some, like for instance, the MPO boards, many of them are grounded in federal law. Some of the advisory boards you have are created by county ordinance. Some of them are created by interlocal agreement. So it's really going to vary pretty widely. But again, and I'll use the example that I used during the work session, you do have a council for people with disabilities. So, that's one board in particular that, we do when we give advice, want to try to give a little bit better latitude for attendance for people that may have challenges with mobility.
Right.
So again, I throw that out there because I do think it's something that you would want to consider having a lesser standard perhaps for your boards. And that's not the only board, certainly that we would find that you might want to have some relaxed standards.
So as we decided on this policy, with that piece removed, everybody okay with that for now? And discuss it later, or do we want to continue discussion? Okay, I'm not getting anything, but we're just going to go forward. We're taking the boards out, because I'm not, and we're just going to talk about our meetings. Okay, if you can rewrite that and circulate it to us, that'd be great.
I know that Amanda Coffey is on it. I will give her credit for having drafted this, and I know she's listening and will be drafting, so we'll bring it back in December.
Yeah, that's the way we'll go forward. County Administrator reports.
The only thing I was going to mention, I know there's some question about with the new federal funding for infrastructure. We are getting ourselves ready for that. And I think one of the things we're going to have to really think about is capacity to deliver on projects. And so, again, we're going to be bringing all of our staffs together and thinking about that, and project management and outsourcing to be able to not only deal with potential federal funding, grant applications, reporting, but also the capacity to deliver on projects, along with the stuff that we want to do under the American Rescue Plan. That's a lot of work with all of our other stuff. So kind of, just kind of a heads up, we're going to be looking at all that, bringing back a plan to you, and kind of a path forward.
Yeah, I just bring this up just for FYI. I probably could talk to you about it later, about the way Tampa Bay Water has initiated a new approach. So in other words, they've brought on another group, a contractor that would end up taking over some of that work on our behalf. So we can talk about that later.
Same concept. I mean, where we normally would have, a staff person managing a contract, well, they may be managing 4 private sector contracts and being more of, contract managers than project managers. And so I think we're going to have to rethink how we do our work in order to be able to deliver on that promise. So.
And in this particular case, they are actually serving as the contract, not the contract, but they're serving in our role as the manager. So they're not just doing, they're taking over our jobs in some cases, and it's certain cases. But it's just because there's so much work that's going to be going on.
Correct, and we're not, I mean, every local government in the country is going to be looking to do the same thing. So it's going to be incumbent upon us to get ahead of this and do it quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, any questions for Barry? Okay. Moving on to item 36, the reappointment to the Palm Harbor Community Service Agency for Commissioner Gerard and my appointments. Do I have a motion for approval? Commissioner Justice on the motion, and who is the second? Commissioner Flowers, sorry about that. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. On to item 37, selection of our 2022 chair and vice chair. And I think we got a couple of emails earlier in the week or the month by a couple of commissioners expressing interest. Commissioner Justice as vice chair this year. The tradition has been to be the next chair. So. Motion by Commissioner Flowers for Commissioner Justice to be the next chair. A second by Commissioner Seal. Do we want to debate this? No. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item, oh, no, I'm sorry, Vice Chair. Okay, well, let's see. Commissioner Gerard made the motion and Commissioner Flowers made the second. I couldn't figure out who did it first. No. Okay, so we had a motion and a second for Commissioner Long to be the vice chair for calendar year 2022. Again, do we want to have vigorous debate over this or just no? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations to our new chair or chair for next year and our vice chair for next year. Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Just thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate your trust to represent you in that role. And right now, your assistants are receiving an email about board appointments.
Yeah, with specific directions and instructions. Okay, and we'll talk about, I guess we'll have all that put together for the next meeting. Yes, okay. All right, final item, commission, new business, pertinent timely items, any discussions? And yes, Commissioner Flowers?
Thank you. Just wanted to share that I will be going to the Florida Association of Counties Legislative Conference. So if there's any additional information or something that you would like shared, if you're not attending, please let me know so that when that particular item comes up, I can speak to it. So just wanted to share that. We have a couple of Zoom meetings from the various committees that'll be occurring the rest of this week to prepare us for that. So it should be real interesting and really exciting. And I'm not sure what the protocol is, but I'm making a suggestion since something very historic happened in the city of St. Petersburg. The date of that swearing in ceremony is the same date as a workshop. So I don't know if there will be any potential consideration for addressing moving that date or the time. If not, that's fine, I understand. But I know that there, since the former commissioner served here, I thought perhaps persons may want to be there to celebrate with him when he takes his oath of office. So I just wanted to put that out there if there's an appetite for any of that.
Commissioner Justice?
We've reached out to the city to find out the exact time of the ceremony so that we could maybe make an adjustment.
Oh, okay, thank you. I did not know that. Of course, I wouldn't know that because we ain't supposed to be talking about it. Anyway, just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
The other one went out of my head, so.
Well, if it comes back to you, we'll get you,
Yeah.
we'll get you in a little bit. Commissioner Long.
Yes, I just wanted to share that both.
Microphone, microphone.
I just wanted to share that both PSTA and T-BARTA received an award at the APTA conference this morning. So I was really, really happy about that and happy to be serving on both those boards. It was a very informative session, especially in regard to federal funding and the work that they are trying to do to help speed up the process and get the dollars out the door. So I'm excited about that, especially as it relates to our transportation systems and different boards we sit on. And lastly, I wanted to make sure that all of you please put April 5th and 6th on your calendars, because that is going to be the second annual climate summit. And I'm really looking forward to, we had such great momentum after the first one, and we've got a great program.
What was the date? I'm sorry.
April 5th and 6th.
Thank you.
And
sorry.
it's the Carillon Hilton. The program is really shaping up, as well as the speakers and presenters. I think you'll all be thrilled at how it's all moving forward. So please do your best to clear your calendar and be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? And I would just say that, again, just as a reminder, we're talking about our commission meetings and our workshops going back to the courthouse and to the office across the street, soon to be named, but starting February 1. In January, we will be here. And then have we reached out to all of those other boards to see if they can, I'm sure we have, to make sure they're.
Della's shaking her head yes.
Okay, great. And then the last thing on my list is to wish everybody and your families a happy Thanksgiving. Hope it's safe and enjoyable and fun. And also, wherever you can, help out a CARES program over the holidays. All of you do that, and many of our residents do. Encourage help for others who may not be as fortunate over the Thanksgiving holiday season. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And we are adjourned.